the Buckeyes of Ohio State, coached by Earl Bruce.
A special football Saturday in Central Ohio. The rededication of one of football's most storied landmarks, and the biggest crowd ever in the Horseshoe welcomes a new era of Ohio State football. September 8th marks the start of a new odyssey as the Buckeyes try to fit into a new shoe and a new coach from Youngstown State, gracing the very sidelines that Woody used to storm. Jim Tressel starts his dream job today and is faced with many challenges. Woody Hayes, Earl Bruce, and John Cooper all managed to win more than 70% of their games, but each failed to lead the Buckeyes on their terms. Tressel is well versed in the traditions and honor of the Scarlet and Gray. Now it's time to prove himself to the Ohio faithful. This afternoon, the Ohio State Buckeyes open their 112th season of intercollegiate football competition as they play host to the Akron Zips. And a pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Wayne Larrabee, Randy Wright, Jim Barber. What a great day to be in Central Ohio. A lot of new things here at Ohio State, but one constant remains behind center. Steve Bellisari, the senior, will start for the third year in a row at quarterback.
Well, Wayne, when you have that much changeover on offense, you have to go to where your constant is. And as you said, Bellisari, a 3-year starter. He's also a 2-year captain, and he's going to be called on to have that leadership, especially early. Tremendous athletic ability. Jim Tressel wants him to work on his decision making, when to go for the big play, when not to go for the big play. Ironically, what he's told him is sometimes the biggest play you may make in a game is going to be throwing the ball out of bounds.
Isn't that the truth? Well, this Akron team should present a pretty good challenge. Matter of fact, they can move the ball on the ground. Veteran offensive line, and in their win last week over Ohio, they had 2 100-yard rushers led by Brandon Payne.
Unusual to have that. 2 guys go over 100 yards. Whoever it is carrying the ball today, 4 of the 5 starters up front, 5th-year seniors. They want to be balanced, but you would think with starting a redshirt freshman at quarterback, they're going to have to move the ball on the ground.
And Brandon Payne is a runner, not so much the outside speed, but the way he cuts it back, as you saw right there, more of a power runner as he's developed in his career. We now head down to the field for the rededication of this fabled stadium. And as you can see near the 50-yard line, Archie Griffin in the picture there and several others. Let's go to the public address announcer.
Stadiums in America. Next, representing the many workers who have made this current project possible, Assistant Director of Athletics in charge of facilities here at Ohio State, Mike Dolan. Mike has been a driving force on this project the past 3 years. Our next guest, Jim Langhurst, served as captain of the 1940 Ohio State football team. Jim is here representing the many team captains who have helped the Buckeyes amass 725 victories in 111 years of football. The next person needs no introduction, but we will. Representing Ohio State's more than 150 first-team All-Americans, 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, Archie Griffin. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Jim Langhurst and Archie Griffin will present to this year's co-captains on the field now, Steve Bellisari, Mike Collins, Joe Cooper, and Jamar Martin, a special sign that will hang in the Ohio State locker room. On that sign is a quote from Ohio State's first 3-time All-American Chuck Harley. And appropriately enough, it's a horseshoe, symbolic of good luck and synonymous with Ohio Stadium.
Rededication complete. The Tressel era begins here at Ohio State. Jim Tressel, the 22nd head coach of Ohio State football. The action's coming up next.
If you take it to them, if you don't make mistakes, and you keep taking it to them, hell, there's no question who will win. There's no question who will win. Now let's go out and do it. Let's go.
They're great. Woody Hayes, no one did it better. He won national championships and several Big Ten championships. But that was an old era. We invite you to the new one. That's Jim Tressel with some new traditions. In fact, one began today. A skull session with a band around 10 o'clock and a different way to enter Ohio Stadium with his group. Businesslike, with briefcase in hand, ready to go to war today with the Akron Zips. That was 2 hours ago. An hour later, with the coat off and a little friendly nod at us, he was ready to walk on the field for the very first time. And then the Bucks, just a half hour prior to kickoff, walking on to the stadium once again in full gear, and Jim Tressel now set and ready. His very first game as head coach. He told us yesterday traditions aren't a big deal to him in terms of winning games. But afterwards, the Ohio State team will sing to the fans here. You know, when they did that at Purdue, Wayne and Randy, they haven't lost a home game but once in the 5 years. When we come back, opening kickoff between Ohio State and Akron, the largest crowd ever at Ohio Stadium in Columbus, Ohio.
Welcome back to the Horseshoe, rededicated and set to go. A new era of Ohio State football. 74 degrees. It is muggy, especially on the floor of the stadium, which has been dropped 14 feet 6 inches since last year. Ohio State won the toss, deferred its decision, and a kickoff from Josh Houston. And a deep kick indeed, and Hendry watches it sail through the end zone, and Akron will take over 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line of the Zips. Charlie Fry, number 5, the redshirt freshman quarterback who engineered a come-from-behind win 9 nights ago in a victory over Ohio. Fry, an Ohio native from Findlay, Willard, Ohio, I should say, getting the start behind center, and what for him is a dream come true. When he signed with Akron, he said, "I'll be the starting quarterback by the time we play at Ohio State." Little razzle-dazzle here, and the pass incomplete. Take a look at the skill people for the Akron Zips. Matthew Cherry, pretty good receiver. Jake Schifino is the guy they look to downfield. Tim Ridley, and all MAC tight end returns. He was injured last week, did not play. Salt and Pepper, Dean and Greskowiak at the tackles, the strength of the offensive line, an experienced unit. 2nd down. Payne in motion. Fry on a roll. Brandon Payne. And Joe Cooper makes the tackle. Pickup of about 4. The Buckeye defense. Scott and Cheatwood, late starters on that defensive line. Collins and Anderson, very solid. Collins, an All-America candidate. Cooper gets a lot of headlines. Wilhelm, Cortland Bullard, a solid crew of linebackers. And we mentioned the secondary. C. Grant and Derek Ross are new cornerbacks, but Nicky and Doss have a lot of experience on the inside. 3rd down for Akron. Fry. Good throw to the sideline. Schifino just short of the 1st down, it appears. They're going to mark him just short near the 30-yard line.
Wayne, Paul Winters, the offensive coordinator for Akron, wanted to come out. He didn't want to be super aggressive because he didn't want to risk anything early, but he also wants his players to play relaxed. And I'd say he's been anything but conservative here early. They open up the game with that little razzle-dazzle, then 2 straight passes, although complete, still short of the 1st down.
Andy Jordan on in punt formation for the Akron Zips. It's a high kick away. Chris Vance, a fair catch signal, and the Buckeyes will take over at the Ohio State 37-yard line. The Buckeyes, led by Steve Belisari, we spoke of him earlier, the senior out of Boca Raton, Florida, has started 22. This will be his 23rd consecutive game at quarterback for the Buckeyes. Here they are in the scarlet and gray. No score, just underway. First offensive possession of the season for the Buckeyes. Wells covered up inside after a gain of a yard or two. Ryan Gargis got over to make a hit on that play. The Ohio State skill people. Wells experienced, so is Jamar Martin, one of the best fullbacks in the country. Vance, a junior college transfer, Jenkins, and Sanders. Sanders is a big target in the red zone. And you take a look at the offensive line now. Adrian Clark getting the start at left tackle. Stepanovich was supposed to be the left guard, but he's been bothered by an ankle injury. Second down for the Buckeyes. 4 receiver, make it a 5 receiver set. Looked like a false start. It appeared Shane Olivier moved prematurely there. You see a lot of teams, Randy, going to what I guess for lack of better description we'll call the Northwestern type of offensive set.
Well, you get into that spread offense where you can keep the same personnel on the field. That time you saw Jamar Martin go from the backfield to the wide spread position. And generally when you do that, especially early, you want to see how the defense adjusts to it. Then you come back to that formation, you have a better play call.
Well, but you also spend a lot of time over the ball. I mean, at the line of scrimmage, and that takes some discipline, getting used to. From the eye, Belisari play action. Got a man wide open down the sidelines, and he lost his footing out of bounds. Jenkins would have had a whole lot more, but he's got plenty to the 41-yard line of Akron.
Nice job by Jenkins running what's called the post corner route. And as Belisari steps back here, he gets excellent protection, looking to his right the whole way. And when you've got a receiver that wide open, it's just a matter of pitch and catch.
25-yard gain, and it's a first down for the Buckeyes. They split Martin out to the top of your screen. And again go with a 5 wide receiver set. Belisari calling the play at the line. It's a quick throw. Nice play made. Pass intended for Jenkins. Coble broke it up. Let's take a look at the Akron defense. Smith and Scholes inside. Gargis playing that defensive end spot along with Marcus Hayes on the outside. Terrell Colbert is the decorated linebacker in this group, and the secondary, they are missing Corvin Amos, their best cornerback. Coble and McKenzie on the corners, Fuller and Detweiler in the secondary, and what they've had a lot of trouble doing over the last year or so is stopping the run. Second down for Ohio State, 10 yards to go. Jonathan Wells runs into a wall here after a gain of maybe 3 yards. Hayes stacked it up, among others, in the mid portion of that Zips defense, and it'll force a third down for Ohio State. About 7 yards to go.
Jonathan Wells in a new role this year, the featured back in this offense. And he's a senior, big kid, 230 pounds. But Wayne, there are questions whether he can carry the load when he's the guy that's going to be featured. So he's got a lot to prove, and he's not going to be able to prove it all today. Something that's going to happen over a couple of weeks.
On third down out of the 4 receiver set, Belisari under immediate pressure. This is where he's good, in the open field, and he has nowhere to go. Loss of yardage back near the original line of scrimmage when this set of plays began. Ed March got over in coverage from the linebacking core, but good pursuit.
When Ohio State has thrown a lot of different formations and different looks at Akron, they want to see how they adjust. But so far, Akron's done a nice job of keeping things in front of them. Here, Belisari has nowhere to go. Spread offense, doesn't have the backs in the backfield to help pick up those rushing defensive linebackers, and Akron made a nice play on that.
B.J. Sander in punt formation. It's good leverage into this kick, and it carries into the end zone. Wanted to pooch it down there where Derek Ross could grab it inside the 5, but got a little bit too much of that one. No score, first quarter at the Horseshoe. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. Wayne Larrabee, Randy Wright, Jim Barber back at warm and now sunny Ohio Stadium. No score. Second offensive possession of the game for the Akron Zips. They come in off a win 9 nights ago over Ohio. And come from behind fashion. Brandon Payne had 100 yards in that game. He doesn't get 100 here, but he gets about 3 to the 23-yard line. Wilhelm over to make the stop in the linebacking core for the Ohio State Buckeyes, along with Will Smith on the defensive line. Jim, how warm is it down there on the floor of this stadium?
It's very warm, Wayne, and we'll be keeping an eye on number 6, C. Grant, because his body doesn't perspire correctly, and he's had some blackouts due to that in the past. So a lot of water will be the key for him. He's also added salt to the diet to get this, guys. No more junk food. That seems to help as well.
That hurts. That hurts. Fry, short drop, has time. I think his receiver, Schifino, was supposed to run more of a seam route when he actually went to the sidelines. Fry looked to me, Randy, like he was throwing the seam there. And
I agree. Certainly a miscommunication. I agree with you. You get that press coverage by the cornerback. Receiver's supposed to rake his quick out into a fade, and Fry had plenty of time, read the coverage properly, and just threw the ball where Schifino should have been.
Third down, 7 yards to go for the Zips.
Got to be careful. You don't try and force something if it's not there. You don't want a turnover deep in your own territory.
3 receivers set out of the shotgun. Fry on the move. Tough chance there. Trying to thread the needle to Schifino. C. Grant and Donnie Nicky in the vicinity. And it's 4th down for Akron.
Pretty good throw here by Fry. And you can see Schifino runs the fade route this time, but watch Nicky come over, makes the contact, going for the ball, makes the contact right as the ball gets there. Nice defensive play.
So once again, Andy Jordan in punt formation. Got a low snap that time. On the return. Ooh, nice tackle made there by Tim Ridley, tight end. And the Buckeyes will start this drive in the vicinity of their 35-yard line when we resume from Columbus. There's a new presence on the sidelines here at Columbus. Jim Tressel in his first game as Ohio State's 22nd football coach in the storied history of this program. First down for the Buckeyes. Football to the 34-yard line in Ohio State territory. No score, first quarter. Great to have you with us. Bryant in motion. Jonathan Wells hesitated for a moment. And you know, Randy, Akron has had a lot of trouble in the past stopping the run defensively, and last week gave up 339 yards. An average of 5.6 yards per attempt to Ohio last week, but they've been rock solid so far in this game here today. Short gain there.
Well, coming into this game, you had to think Ohio State was inexperienced at the wide receiver position. They had a pretty good offensive line, and with Wells and his experience, though he hadn't been a starter, you had to think they were going to try and come out and run the ball. And I think Akron has committed themselves, especially early, to stopping that.
Belisari got Martin, the fullback, for a first down across the 45 to the 48-yard line. Detweiler, the safety, and Colbert, a linebacker, on the tackle.
Nice job by Jamar Martin running a little flat route, comes through like he fakes at the block. As you'll see him come out, not going to block, picks right up, goes into the flat. Belisari sees him quickly, does a nice job getting the ball to him quickly so Martin can catch it and turn up and get positive yardage.
Detweiler, the safety, went down with an injury. He's on the sidelines now, placed by Marcus Subert in the free safety spot, or I should say the strong safety spot. Wells had a hole there, closed quickly as Ryan Myers filled it along with Terrell Colbert, and it'll be a second down coming up.
You see those plays, and as you said, Wayne, it closes quickly and it looks like there's not much there, but then you look up and you see you got 4 yards, and now it's 2nd and 6, so it turns out to be a pretty positive play.
It's a positive. That's what you want, at least 4 yards if you're going to invest a first down running play out there.
Anytime you can get 4 yards on first down, you've met what your coaches generally put as your goal. 4 yards on first down, give yourself a 2nd and 6 runner pass situation.
3 receivers set. Belisari. Decisive throw. Bryant out of bounds. Got the first down. 34-yard line of Akron. McKenzie made the play. Ricky Bryant, sophomore from Farmington Hills, Michigan.
Boy, they really like this guy. He's young, though he's not real big, 6 foot, 175. He's got great speed and a real good attitude. And I think there are a lot of question marks for this wide receiver core. And even though Michael Jenkins or Chris Vance and Chris Gamble, I think those positions aren't really settled as who's the starter or who the players are going to be.
Power formation now with 2 tight ends on the line. Belisari to Jonathan Wells. Cuts it back inside the 30. Down to the 29-yard line. Once again, Myers, the linebacker, in the middle of the fray for Akron, along with Marcus Hayes, a defensive end. And again, Randy, gain of about 5 yards that time.
And Ohio State not really trying to make anything happen quickly here. They're content to take the 5 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards at a time, not forcing the issue.
Belisari on 2nd down. And again, it's Wells. Nice move there. He hesitated for a moment and then just powered through the hole close to the first down. Gain of about 5 or 6 yards. Smith and Hayes again respond.
Wayne, a lot of these going right over there. All-American candidate at center, LaCharles Bentley, one of the players coming back from last year. He's the one that's anchoring that offensive line, and that seems to be where Wells is finding most of his room.
First down, football near the 23-yard line. Wells again. And once again, he finds room inside. Down to the 15-yard line on a gain of about 8 yards. Detweiler and Fuller collaborate.
You take a look at how the interior offensive line here opens up these holes. Little cross block right there. What a nice job by Sanders, the tight end, number 89, sealing off the outside linebacker from coming in there. Where there's some big holes now starting to open up.
Hartsock and Sanders are the tight ends in this power attack. And is Belisari calling the play right at the line there, Randy?
Probably calling the direction. Plays called in the huddle is just calling which way.
He called the right direction. Jonathan Wells, touchdown.
Wayne, it was a rather methodical drive by the Buckeyes. Here you see going to the left, nice blocks, and then just an open field missed tackle by the free safety Fuller. Wells puts a nice move and gets into the end zone, and here we are still in the first quarter. 8 carries, 45 yards. Pretty good start.
And the extra point try is through the uprights and good. Jonathan Wells puts Jim Tressel and the Ohio State Buckeyes on the board. 7-0 in the first. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. Buckeyes, good start here this afternoon. 8 plays, 66 yards, 2 passing plays, 6 runs on that drive. They just hunkered down and steamrolled them. And now some wind on the floor of the stadium, or at least there isn't where we are. We're well above the stadium here in this new press box. Beautiful facility. Used to making sure the ball is secure on the tee. Bob Hendry is the principal deep back for Akron. Josh Houston, a freshman from Findlay, Ohio. And this a returnable kick for Hendry from the 2. Hendry able to catch a gap across the 20 to the 22-yard line, where it'll be first down for the Akron Zips. Jim Barber, it was just a good old-fashioned Ohio State drive that resulted in the 66-yard scoring drive. We'll hear from Jim Barber in a few moments. Now the Akron Zips try to answer, trailing for the first time this afternoon of their second offensive series of the day. First down at the 22. Inside handoff. Plunging forward is Dan Bash, a sophomore from Walton Hills, Ohio. Had a couple of catches last week in the game against Ohio University. Cooper and Wilhelm on the stop.
And the Zips will play two fullbacks, Matt Zerker and Dan Bash. They're kind of interchangeable, though Bash is a little better runner. Zerker more of a blocker. And as tempting as it may be for Akron to want to open things up, they need to commit to the running game to keep that balance.
Once again on the ground, Brandon Payne. Will Smith was first to the ball. Wilhelm also in there for the Buckeyes. A short gain. And you know, you're right, Randy. Especially early, it's easy to get off of your running game. If it doesn't work early, you have a tendency in this day and age, it seems like all football coaches, to go to the air.
Well, and you don't want to try and make the big play happen. Against a defense like Ohio State, you have to let it come to you. And they have prided themselves on a balanced attack, 200 yards plus, both through the ground and in the air. So they need to make sure they continue to do both those things.
Payne in motion, Doss on the blitz. Fry goes down.
Boy, the best way you can attack an inexperienced quarterback is you blitz him. He's thinking of his reads. He's not necessarily looking in all directions. And here you see Doss coming in from the backside. Fry never looks to his left, never sees him coming. That's the kind of thing as a quarterback you have to anticipate before the snap by looking at the entire defense. Never happens that time, and Doss makes a big play.
Vance off a line drive kick. Buckeyes will start inside the Akron 40-yard line of the 36. So mistakes beginning to pile up now on Akron, and Ohio State a golden opportunity. 36 yards away, already leading 7-0.
Well, Wayne, sometimes big plays like that sack by Mike Doss can really get your crowd into it. It doesn't take a lot to get this crowd into it. They're willing to, they want to get excited. They've anticipated this for quite a while, and Doss comes through, the leader on defense, had 13 tackles for loss last year, 3 sacks, makes a big play, which eventually gives Ohio State excellent field position after the punt.
Sanders and Hartsock on the line for Jim Tressel's Buckeyes. 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, and Sam Maldonado in the backfield with Belisari looking to throw wide open. He's got Hartsock. First down to the 21-yard line. Angled out of bounds by DeAndre Earl, a true freshman linebacker from Toledo.
Well, when you have questions about your wide receivers, you start getting your backs involved and you get your tight ends involved. Nice play action. Belisari is always a threat to run. You see how wide open Hartsock is. Early here, Ohio State, nice job getting their backs and tight ends involved.
Buckeyes have new receivers. They lost 4 of their top 5 receivers from last year's offense. First down to the 21. Sam Maldonado. Not much there. Got barely a yard. The Zips able to stack it up pretty well. Hayes was in on that tackle. Culberson from the linebacking core.
You have to be careful here if you're Akron. As the team starts getting closer to your goal line, you start to become a little more aggressive. You start to blitz. You start to play a little more man. Bring your linebackers. That's going to put your defensive backs one-on-one with these wide receivers. And if anybody misses a tackle, there's nobody left to cover up.
On second down and 9. Belisari. Fumbles the football. Still up for grabs and recovered by the Buckeyes.
Oh, what a golden opportunity Akron let slip away. The ball was stripped away from Belisari. 3 white jerseys right there, and none of them tried to fall on the ball. They tried to pick it up.
Bryce Bishop did fall on the ball and gathered it in.
Oh, well, take a look at this here. It's Belisari. You'll see the ball get stripped. Nice job ripping it away. But now look at the opportunity right there. Just fall on the ball. Don't try and pick it up. But look what happens is Culberson trying to pick it up made a mental mistake.
It's a first down for the Buckeyes at the 11-yard line of Akron. Maldonado trying to go wide, and a good play made on the flank by Ricky Coble.
Oh, what an outstanding tackle by Coble on the outside. One-on-one with Maldonado. Nobody behind him, brings him down.
The 2 rushers, the 2 tailbacks who will see most of the action here today. Wells, the experience. Maldonado showed some flashes at times last year. But they were really high on him, and they felt he had a very good spring practice, and they've been impressed with him in the fall camp. Maldonado.
And they think he's going to be very good. He hadn't played a lot. He's got excellent instincts. He's big, 215 pounds, powerful. Say he's difficult to tackle, though that time Popo brought him down the open field.
2nd down and 9. Martin. Touchdown. It is 13-0 Ohio State.
Well, last year, Jamar Martin catches all of one pass. Today, he's already had multiple catches, and he's really shown his ability as a receiver, not only to catch the ball, but good speed to get to the outside. Used primarily as a blocking back. I think the Jim Tressel era is going to fit just fine with Jamar Martin.
Mike Nugent for the point after. And for the 2nd time today, he puts it through the uprights. We're going to see both Josh Houston and Mike Nugent kicking for the Buckeyes today. We may see 2 punters as well. The kicking game a bit unsettled following the spring drills, and they've tried to sort things out in the fall, but right now everything going the Buckeyes' way. 5 plays, 36 yards. Took just 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and we take ourselves down to the field. And Jim Barber.
Thank you, Wayne. Jonathan Wells is the question mark right now. We didn't see him on the last scoring drive. He wears number 28. And Wells has a lot of heavy tape on that right foot, and perhaps he's nursing it a bit. So we'll try to update you on that. But in that particular drive, he was not needed. And how about Maldonado? I mean, this is a kid they say is really tough to tackle. And as you mentioned earlier, they're very high on him coming from camp, and to expect a lot of good things from him as this season gets going.
Well, they also have 3 freshman running backs we may see here today. Jaja Riley, Lydell Ross, and Maurice Hall. Hall, of course, coming from Columbus, Ohio, one of the major recruits locally for Jim Tressel and company.
Well, that's one of the bigger differences between a Big Ten school and a MAC school is not necessarily the players on the field, but the quality of the depth. And we just have spoken about the depth at the running back position for Ohio State.
Houston, good leverage into this kick. Hendry to the corner. Yard deep in the end zone. Comes out of there. Hendry pulling his way across the 20-yard line. It'll be a 1st down for the Akron Zips near their 22 or 23-yard line. Mo Lee made the stop. Maurice Lee, a sophomore from Cleveland, Ohio. Here you go. Another look at that little swing pass.
Well, it's key to get the ball to your receiver as quickly as you can when he's in the flats. You get it to him before he runs out of enough field. He's not trapped up against the sideline. And the key is he can get it and turn upfield and get into the end zone. Just 5 plays, but the big key, they only had 36 yards to go.
That was off a line drive punt. Chris Vance had advanced into Akron territory. Trying to go wide here. Hendry finding the sledding tough. Doss and Wilhelm pursue well to the ball. Ohio State was one of the better defenses in the country last year. They led the Big Ten with 46 sacks. They led the conference in scoring defense at 18 points a game and rushing defense, yielding just 91.6 yards a game. Wells down with an ankle injury at the moment. We're not sure if he'll be back or not. Hendry again goes wide, and Joe Cooper meets him on the flank. Gain of a yard or 2.
Well, you saw the speed of this Ohio State defense. Joe Cooper from his outside linebacker position tracking down Hendry. And if there is a strength of this Ohio State defense, it's up the middle with their linebackers and their 2 safeties. There, Cooper not fooled by the interior fake. There are a lot of red jerseys over there making that tackle.
3rd down. Fry. Oh, nice look there. Good catch. Nice adjustment to the ball made by Brandon Payne, the running back, and he's got a 1st down out near the 40-yard line. Donnie Nicky responding from the secondary. But, Randy, that's not an easy catch. That pass thrown to his back hip.
Not at all, especially for a back who's not used to catching the ball from the wide receiver position. One of the things that Brandon Payne brings this team. He's got excellent feet, good vision, not great speed, but with his hands capable of catching the ball, they can break him out and get it to him from that position.
On 1st down, bit of a delay here. And on the carry, Dan Bash. What a great name for a football player, especially a fullback. Cooper and Scott on the stop. Bash, a prized recruit out of Walsh Jesuit High School, Walton Hills, Ohio.
Wayne, I really like what Akron is doing right now. They basically say, you know what, forget about the scoreboard. It's 14-0, forget about it. First quarter, let's just go into running our plays, run our offense, mix the shorter passing game with the running game, and see if we can get first downs.
Fry in the shotgun. Overshot his intended receiver, Bates Sakos. Mike Doss, coverage on the far side.
One of the few poor passes that Fry has thrown early in this game. Just about everything has been on target or has been a miscommunication with the receiver maybe breaking off the route. Earlier he talked about Fry. He had targeted this game when he came to Akron as the one he wanted to start.
I think he's excited. I think we've seen a couple of overthrows from him. I think he's just pumped up. Maybe a little too much. Third down here, almost 5 yards to go. Hendry didn't have much of a chance. First across the line was Kenny Peterson, and he literally blew up the play. Loss of one.
Well, you can make one guy miss. It's hard to make more than one. There's the miss, but Peterson's in the backfield, disrupts the timing, and then you see Cheatwood come in and finish it up. So Cheatwood gets credit for the tackle for loss, but as you said, it was really Kenny Peterson that made the play.
Andy Jordan on in punt formation for the Akron Zips. Vance back deep. Vance, fair catch signal. Ball hits on the 10. And the Zips are going to cover this inside the 5. Tim Ridley gathers it in. An all-conference candidate at tight end, as we mentioned, and a very good special teams player. Missed last week's game for the Akron Zips. He was suffering the effects of an ankle injury. But he's back this week. Jim Tressel with his team huddled around him.
I don't know that he's too disappointed with this situation. You're up 14-0. He wants to see his offense react to all kinds of situations. Now he gets to see what it's like coming out from your own end zone. You've had good field position. Now you got to take over from your own 4-yard line. I think he's probably not so super disappointed to see his offense put in this position.
Meanwhile, some instruction for the Buckeye defense. First down, 2 tight end formation for Ohio State. They've been in a power formation since the second series offensively for them. And Jonathan Wells, I mentioned we might see him off an ankle injury back in there, and that we do. And he bulldozes his way across the 10-yard line. Pickup of 7.
Just a power play by that Ohio State offensive line. Huge hole. And when you give a back like Wells, 230 pounds, momentum, a chance to build up some speed, he's a load to bring down, as John Fuller found out.
I guess. He just got steamrolled. 2nd and 3. And what do we get? First quarter comes to a close. The Ohio State Buckeyes score the first 2 touchdowns of the ball game. They lead 14-0. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. Welcome back to the first meeting between these programs, Akron and Ohio State, since 1895. It's a long time between games, isn't it?
Not a lot of tradition in this this rivalry, you're saying.
I think it's wonderful, though, that the Buckeyes each year will play one of the schools from the state. You know, they'll play Ohio, they'll play Miami of Ohio, play Akron.
Tell you what, those teams are getting better every year.
Sure are. And it's great for football in the state. 2nd and 3 as we begin the second quarter. Wells, first down. Spinning his way across the 20-yard line. Ohio State continues in its power mode. Earl and Blackburn, a couple of freshmen on the stop.
We've talked about the fullback position for Ohio State as a receiver. There you see Jamar Martin as a blocker. Nice job leading the way for Wells. When you get your fullback on a linebacker, nobody in between, especially a back as big as Martin, he's going to create a huge hole to run through.
One tight end in the game now as they line up in the eye in the backfield. Belisari, the left-hander, going deep for Jenkins. Knocked away, incomplete. Ricky Coble did a good job of flanking Michael Jenkins all the way, and Belisari put enough air under it, Randy, but good coverage.
It was good coverage, and that's where you have to throw the ball. Jenkins has to create the separation, and really there was no room there to get that ball in there. Coble, who's stepping in, as you said earlier, for maybe the best defensive back, Corvin Amos, who's hurt. I've been impressed with Coble, both as a tackler and as a pass defender.
Indeed. 2nd and 10. From the shotgun, Maldonado. Cut it back and picks up short yardage. Out in front of that play, Brad Detweiler, the safety, came up and turned it back inside into the arms of James Battle, the linebacker. And a pickup of maybe 3 yards, leaving a 3rd and about 7 for Ohio State.
So many times when you throw the ball on 1st down and it's incomplete, that 2nd down play is a run. You don't want to risk an incompletion. Have 3rd and 10. You want to at least pick up a couple of yards and get it manageable for 3rd down.
To the sidelines. Oh, great catch. Chris Gamble. And a 1st down. Ricky McKenzie able to angle him out. Belisari with a laser to the sidelines.
Well, it's a pretty good play by the defender to try and close on it. But as you said, Belisari just had a little bit too much zip on this ball. And Gamble did a nice job of screening the defender with his body. Keep your body between the ball and the defender, and the only way the defender is going to get there is to go through you. You'll draw the interference. Nice job.
3 receiver set, 2 to the top of your screen. That's Vance in the slot at the top. Single back offense. On 1st down, Maldonado trying to get to the outside. Escorted to the chalk marks by Ryan Myers. Short gain, maybe a yard.
Well, early here we've seen Jonathan Wells carrying the ball more in between the tackles, had a lot of room, and it's been Sammy Maldonado trying to get to the outside, and I don't think he's had the same amount of success to the outside as Wells has had running inside.
I tell you what, these Akron backers flow pretty well to the ball.
Well, they play with what really is a 4-3, but they move that one linebacker around a lot to where it could be 5 guys on the line of scrimmage.
Belisari under a blitz. Wide of the mark, intended for Chris Vance. The blitz was coming off the corner, Randy, from Ricky Coble.
And that left Vance wide open. Sometimes as a quarterback, you turn, you see the blitz coming, you know where the open guy's going to be, but when you see a receiver that wide open,
does it surprise you? I mean,
you just want to get the ball to him so quickly. Here, Belisari doesn't set his feet. He looks over, oh my gosh, he's wide open, get it to him quickly, and you forget to do your fundamentals, and you throw a bad pass.
He didn't set his feet, did he?
Not at all. Didn't turn his shoulders, throwing where you're going to throw the ball where your shoulders are. So that's the most important thing. Set your feet, turn your shoulders.
That's Vance pushing on 3rd down for Belisari. They pick up the blitz well. Nearly intercepted by McKenzie. The pass intended for Bryant, and that one didn't get out there with the same kind of velocity we saw 2 plays ago.
Well, and Steve Belisari knows that when you're on the left hash mark trying to throw a short out to the far side, boy, that ball's got to travel a long way. Belisari's rather fortunate to get this ball back. Part of the good decision making that Jim Tressel has talked to Belisari about wanting to make, and I think he's going to have a little chat with him over here on the sideline.
Andy Groom is on in punt formation. Out of a high snap, gets his kick away. Brandon Payne to retrieve, and he muffs it, but recovers back inside the 15-yard line. Early going 2nd quarter. The Buckeyes leading by 2 touchdowns. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. 14-0. The Zips begin their next drive at their 14-yard line here at Ohio Stadium in Columbus. Wayne Larrivee along with Randy Wright and Jim Barber. And here are the Zips to the line of scrimmage. Schifino, principal target in the receiving game. The top of your screen, that's Cherry at the bottom in the offset eye. Fry looking for Schifino. Nope, he goes to the fullback. Matt Zerker on the reception, gain of almost 8 yards. Derek Ross made the stop, and let's go to Jim Barber on the floor of the stadium.
Thank you, Wayne. We interrupt your broadcast for a flashback, and I don't imagine anybody in Columbus is going to mind. Back to 1968, Michigan against Ohio State. Bucks up by 30. And with a touchdown adding to it. A chance for a 2-point conversion at that point for Jim Otis. Woody Hayes was asked afterwards, why did you go for 2 after blowing Michigan out? And he said, because I couldn't go for 3. Final score in that game, Ohio State 50, And the school up north, 14, guys.
There's a lot of love between Columbus and Ann Arbor, isn't there?
You know, we're on the field yesterday, and the band's here, and Jim Tressel's taking his team through a walkthrough, and the band starts singing that they hate Michigan. And, you know, if there's anything that Jim Tressel probably didn't want to hear, it's thinking about a game at the end of November, but it shows you the importance. 2 seasons here.
Third down coming up for the Zips right here. Third and less than a yard. Here's the pitch. Brandon Payne got the first down. Good strong leg drive into Donnie Nicky, the safety. Got it to the 25-yard line, and that's enough for the first down on a gain of 2. Joe Cooper helped out.
And boy, Payne did get that all on his own. He was pretty well defensed as Nicky and Cooper were there. But Payne had a chance to get some momentum and lowered that shoulder. And at 5'10", 200 pounds, got a pretty low center of gravity. Did a nice job picking up that first down. That wasn't easy.
He had 115 yards on 23 carries with 2 touchdowns last week in the win over Ohio. First down, Fry. Going deep. Matthew Cherry, the intended receiver, and the pass drifted just a bit across the Ohio State 45-yard line.
Boy, a well-designed play. You don't often see the quarterback roll to the same side that he makes his fake. As he did, he drew the Ohio State defense with him. Cherry ran a nice route, got open. Little more air under this ball. Could have been 6. As you see, Fry rolls that way, has time. There you see Cherry well behind Ross. Ball's just not thrown accurately.
Second down and 10. Misdirection here. Brandon Payne brought down by Cortland Bullard. This is something Jim Tressel talked about. He was worried about his defense reacting to what he expected to be misdirection. And matter of fact, Paul Winters later on yesterday afternoon talked to us about the fact that he thought they might be able to take advantage of Ohio State over pursuing defensively. But that time Bullard stayed at home and made the play.
And Joe Cooper, his counterpart on the other side, those 2 linebackers have done a nice job of either staying at home or having enough ability to recover if they are temporarily full.
Paul Winters, the offensive coordinator at Akron, did a nice job of calling that game last week. Fry facing third down. Quick toss to the sidelines. Catch is made in play by Schifino, and they are short of the first down.
A couple times in this first half, we've seen Akron on a third down complete a ball, yet wind up short of the first down. They don't want to run their routes too deep, not knowing what kind of protection Fry is going to get. But when you've only got 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, you got to extend that and try and at least get to that first down marker.
So it is 4th down. 4th at about 5. Again, kind of a line drive kick. Chris Vance broke 1 tackle, brought down by the second man, Jesse Smith. First down for the Buckeyes. Again, excellent field position at their 45. They lead 14-0. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. A little over 10 minutes to go in this first half at the rededicated Horseshoe Ohio Stadium. Belisari has worked quarterback all the way through until now, when he is replaced by Scott McMullen. And this is something Jim Tressel said he would do. He'd play at least 2 quarterbacks in the ball game today. And it's something he does usually early in the season with all of his teams. He wants 2 guys with experience. Well, Belisari's got a wealth of experience, and McMullen is just a sophomore from Granville, Ohio. And he takes over with a first down to the 45-yard line. Buckeye territory. Jonathan Wells trying to escape to the outside. Beautiful recovery made by Ryan Myers, the linebacker. He's made several tackles in the early going here today. A junior out of Wellington, Ohio.
When you mentioned Scott McMullen stepping in here, not any reflection on Steve Belisari, as Jim Tressel has said he's always done that, likes to do that in case there's an injury later in the season. You kind of prep that backup quarterback, give him a chance to step in there and play in a meaningful time, not when it's just garbage time.
Second down. They picked up the blitz well again. And McMullen had his man open, Ricky Bryant, on a deep slant. The pass overthrown, and it's going to be third down coming up.
Well, McMullen not really sure if Bryant was going to go underneath the coverage or on top of it. And there was a little contact between Ricky McKenzie, the defensive back, and Bryant. McKenzie forces him underneath, and McMullen threw the ball deeper.
So it becomes 3rd down for the Buckeyes. 3rd and about 9. Three wide receivers set, 2 to the top of your screen. Jenkins and Vance at the top. Bryant's at the bottom. McMullen on 3rd down. Decisive throw, threw it behind the tight end, Sanders. Darnell Sanders, the junior from Orangeville Heights, Ohio. Myers had the coverage in the linebacking core.
Pretty good coverage and not a big area for McMullen to get this ball in here. You want to try and hit him right off with the break, almost as though he thought that Sanders was going to stop in the spot where he made his move. Sanders kept coming, reading man-to-man coverage, which I believe is the right move. If you see it's man-to-man, you run away from it. McMullen read something differently.
B.J. Sander, left-footed kicker, gets good leverage into this one. Payne lets it drift back. Did he touch it? I think it's a live ball. Buckeyes recover. First down at the Akron 1-yard line.
Payne's had trouble. Look here, he's looking right into the sun. Looks like he loses the ball a little bit as he's bobbled the previous one. Then it becomes a live ball, and all of your red jerseys see that as they're running down towards it. And yeah, it clearly did touch it its first way down, and then your chances of getting back on that ball aren't very great with all those red jerseys who are once again looking at the ball as they come down there.
Jason Bond on the recovery, and Ohio State sets up shop at the Akron 1-yard line. Wow, those guys have been put in a precarious position. The Akron defense.
Brandon Payne, usually a pretty sure-handed returner, has bobbled a couple of punts now.
Motion from Jesse Klein. Wells to the end zone. And the Buckeyes extend their advantage. There is a flag down on the play, and it may be for a false start on Ohio State.
Hey, it's either that or it's going to be offsides against Akron.
Offsides the call against Akron.
That penalty is declined.
So the touchdown stands.
Lee Owens had said he wanted to stay in the game early. This is not how you stay in it when you turn the ball over on your 2-yard line. Basic run play. You count on that offensive line to give you back the line of scrimmage. This time they gave him the end zone. A pretty decent job, though, Akron had done up until that point of not helping Ohio State out. That time a big turnover.
Houston's point after is good. Jonathan Wells has scored 2 touchdowns here this afternoon. And Jim Tressel's Buckeyes lead 21-0. Just over 9 minutes to go in the second. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. Harbor, welcome back to Ohio Stadium. Buckeyes leading 21-0 in the debut as Ohio State head coach of Jim Tressel. Nugent's kickoff to restart the game. Henry watches it sail into the end zone deep and through. And Akron will start at the 20. Elsewhere in the Big Ten this week. And Thursday night, North Carolina State defeated Indiana. Meanwhile, last night, Northwestern prevailed in a good one over UNLV on the road. Michigan and Washington a little bit later start this afternoon. Early season test for Michigan. And the Badgers leading Fresno State in the first quarter. Off to a good start there. Illinois, Northern Illinois scoreless. And how about those Hawkeyes?
We saw that Miami team last week. They were pretty good.
Brandon Payne absorbed a little bit there. Cortland Bullard once again responding from the linebacking core. This is an excellent crew of linebackers. Randy, you talked about it earlier. Ohio State is well fortified defensively right up the middle. Starts with Mike Collins, the All-American defensive tackle. You go to the linebacking core and then the safeties, Nicky and Doss.
Boy, when you've got that speed, especially at the outside linebacker like you have with Bullard and Cooper, you can do so many things with your safeties. You can bring them up. They don't have to worry about the backs flaring out. The linebackers can get them. Gives you a lot of flexibility.
Payne got a good block off the flank. Down the sidelines and out of bounds in Ohio State territory at the 47-yard line of the Buckeyes. Donnie Nicky finally angled him out of bounds. Biggest play of the game thus far for the Akron Zips.
We just talked about the speed. There you see Bullard getting caught to the inside. You see a nice block out there by the wide receiver, and that gives Payne the sideline. Not great speed, though, as Donnie Nicky chases him down, but I'm not sure who delivered that hit.
30-yard gain on the play by Payne.
I'm not sure if it was Payne delivering it to Nicky or the other way around.
Payne either way. First down. Fry tried to hit Ridley, and Bullard was riding him on the play. No flag. Second down and 10 coming up.
One thing Ohio State knew coming into this game, from their defensive point of view, Akron's going to fake play action, a cross buck in the backfield. Every play there was going to be something going on in the backfield. It wasn't going to be just a straight drop back. So far, the linebackers are doing a nice job of not being fooled by that, but being able to maintain, if they're in pass coverage, who it is they've got and run with it.
Paul Winters, the offensive coordinator at Akron. Quick throw, Shafino. There's a flag down to the play. Shafino's got running room, a first down and a whole lot more, and he's angled out of bounds inside the Buckeye 25. Again, Donnie Nicky had to cover a lot of ground to get over there to make the play. Sizable chunk of yardage on the game. Let's see what the flag's all about. It's against the Zips. False start or illegal procedure.
A couple of different plays have worked well here for Akron. The running play earlier, than this, just a stand-up screen.
Scrimmage, 5 yards. Repeat, second down.
And we could barely hear there the call. Not enough men on the line of scrimmage, only 6. So it was an alignment problem, and that's a shame because that's a play that doesn't work all that often. You kind of catch your defense off guard by it, and yet what could have been a huge gain turns into a no play.
4 receivers set. Fry to the air. Diving attempt made by Cherry, and it's incomplete. He was in a battle royale with Bobby Britton down the sidelines. Penalty markers are now pushing both ways.
I think this may go against Cherry. I think right as the ball was thrown, it looks like they may go against Britton.
Preliminary indication was against Ohio State.
Well, you called it, Wayne. You said there was pushing both ways.
Pass interference, defense. 15 yards from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Well, they kind of make up for the penalty, the previous play that nullified the big gain. Take a look at this. You can see the shoving going both ways. Now, you can't really see there, but I will say both officials on the spot threw their flag and had the same call. So they had a good look at it. We're in agreement.
Off the penalty, first down to the 38-yard line of Ohio State. 3 receivers at the bottom of your screen. Fry trying to beat Cheatwood to the corner, and he can't do it. Tim Cheatwood showing good speed. He's a former tight end, now playing the defensive end spot. Jim Barber, what do you have for us?
Charlie Fry committed to Akron, guys, back on December 9th, 1999, on his grandparents' 49th wedding anniversary. And at that time, he knew Akron was going to play Ohio State in the year 2001, and he wanted to start, which he has. He grew up as a water boy, just loved football from the beginning. Kind of like our Randy Wright, no?
I don't think so. Randy never carried water.
I not only grew up as that, but maintained that well into my career.
Bob Henry on the carry. Dawson Britton make the tackle off a gain of about 3 or 4 yards.
Nice drive here by Akron, mixing up some passing plays and some running plays and new things. They had got into a little bit of their rhythm. Ohio State had made their adjustments. This drive, Akron showing them some new looks.
3rd down, about 6. Fry, quick toss behind Payne, and he had him, Randy.
Boy, you did. You saw Matt Wilhelm flash right in between Fry and Payne, and you wonder if that caused Fry to throw the ball a little bit behind him. But had he gotten that ball there a little bit quicker, Payne had some room to run. Well, these linebackers for Ohio State are just so quick. You know, they've got experience, they anticipate, and they've got the speed to get there.
I think they're going to go for it here on 4th down and 6. They're at the Buckeye 33-yard line. And they're going to talk over the play they want to run to the Zips. And we will step away with 7:26 to go in this first half. Ohio State leading 21-0. You're watching the Big Ten from ESPN+. Well, the Akron Zips have driven to the 33-yard line of the Ohio State Buckeyes. If they are to keep this drive alive, however, they will have to convert a 4th down and 6 yards to go. And they've taken a timeout to talk about it. Lee Owens sends his troops back onto the field.
One of the things you can do when you're a big underdog and you're playing at Ohio State, you got nothing to lose. You can take some of these chances, especially when you're down 21-0.
Cluster of 3 receivers to the bottom of your screen. Fry, the redshirt freshman, on the run. Diving grab made, but I believe they're short of the 1st down, and Payne apparently did not even make the grab. They say he trapped it as he gathered it in. Doss and Ross, safety in the corner on the coverage for Ohio State.
Well, I think you're right, Wayne. I think it's a moot point because I don't think he would have had the 1st down. Take a look and see, though, if he did make the catch. Nope, the ball clearly came out right there. Low throw, clearly hit the ground, but it would have been Ohio State ball either way.
So it'll be 1st down for the Buckeyes at the 33-yard line. How many times is that, though, that we've seen an Akron receiver not get far enough to get a 1st down on the reception?
Well, you know, sometimes you get excited, you get anxious, and when you have to run disciplined routes, the discipline kind of goes out the window, and I think we've seen that, as you just commented, a couple different times.
Second offensive series for Scott McMullen at quarterback for the Buckeyes. Jonathan Wells banging his way across the 35 to the 39-yard line on a gain of about 6 yards. Chris Williams, the free safety, on the stop.
I think Scott McMullen is getting some valuable time here to play. You've got a good lead, you've got good field position, so you don't really have a lot of pressure on you. But this is a guy that is the heir apparent to take over for Belisari, and as much as Belisari runs around and does some things, the possibility of him getting injured goes up, so it's good to give McMullen a good opportunity.
2nd down. Hartsock, the tight end, in motion. Broke 1 tackle, did Wells, and rambles to the 41-yard line on a gain of about 2 yards. Jonathan Wells becoming tougher and tougher to tackle as this day goes on. Culberson, among others, in on that stop.
Well, as you said, Wayne, the day goes on. You're taking on those big bodies in the offensive line, and then once you shed those blockers, you got to tackle some of these backs. Here you take a look at the rushing comparison. 71 yards already for Wells. 5.4-yard average for Payne. It's pretty good, but the fact he's only carried the ball 7 times kind of nullifies that.
3rd and 2. Wells met in the backfield this time. Nowhere to go. Chris Smith, DeAndre Earl were there. Culberson also in the vicinity.
Akron just guessing right that time. 3rd and 2, Ohio State, some success up the middle. Nice job that time by that Akron defense coming through there. Chris Smith leads the rush, makes contact in the backfield.
DeAndre Earl pulled the football out of the pile and said, hey, look what I've got, ref. He didn't buy it, though.
Anytime you can get penetration from the defensive line, you're going to destroy most running plays.
Andy Groom's punt, and he lost it in the sun again. Brandon Payne. That's what happened the last time, and then it was covered quickly. My goodness. Jumping on that football, Greg Williams, he didn't have to do that.
No, not at all. Sometimes your instincts just take over. I don't think he knew where the ball was. He turned around, boom, it's right there, and instinctively may not have known whether one of his guys had touched it or not. But you just got to get away. Well,
it was right at his feet.
You know, he almost gets pushed into the ball, too, as you just saw right there. So fortunately for Akron, they retain possession.
I think he reacted because he was afraid that he was going to touch it.
Well, especially with the push. You get pushed into it like that, and you wind up touching it, and the ball's over.
1st down, Charlie Fry. Under pressure from Wilhelm. Rained upon by the Buckeyes. Tim Cheatwood finally put him away, but a it was Wilhelm who started the assault.
Well, there's so much speed coming at Fry from this Buckeye defense. When the play's not open, you got a guy right there. He's not there. The outside guy's not there. Throw the ball away. You're generally not going to be able to outrun that many defensive players when they're coming at you running forward and you're running sideways.
A loss of 4, 2nd and 14. Inside of 5 minutes to go, first half. Payne on some misdirection. Nice cut there. Breaks the tackle of Cooper and gets a first down to the 25-yard line. That's a 17-yard ramble. Nicky and Cooper on the stop.
We talked about Ohio State trying to be careful not to over pursue. Watch Wilhelm here. He goes to the outside. Oh, there he goes back to the inside. It was a nice move by Payne, and then that stiff arm there fights off Cooper, enables him to pick up that first down.
So Charlie Fry's got a little more room to work with here.
And a first down.
Fry on the roll. Schifino got a foot down in bounds. No, he didn't. Oh, it was close. Jake Schifino.
Good call by the official. Schifino came down, looked like his foot was right on the line. The ball needs to be thrown a little bit earlier. Schifino was open. A little earlier pass gets that ball to Schifino, and then the sideline doesn't become an issue. Take a look at the right foot. It's going to be the left foot right there on the line. Good call.
C. Grant had the coverage pretty well measured. Charlie Fry was 13 of 16 passing, 145 yards last week against Ohio.
I've been impressed with him.
I've been impressed with his composure, Randy. He's not been accurate today, but his composure is what's going to carry him. Diving attempt made, and it's incomplete. Pass intended for the tight end, Nick Fortner. Well, we looked at the Big Ten scores earlier. Let's take a look at some scores around the country now. Texas in front of North Carolina, 6th-ranked Longhorns. Virginia Tech leading Western Michigan. We'll see the Broncos next week at Michigan. Georgia Tech on top of Navy. Kansas in front of UCLA. The later stages of the first. Third down. 3rd and 10. Bob Hendry. And they convert on the ground on another 3rd and long. 15-yard gain for Hendry out across the 40-yard line.
Nice job by Paul Winters there, the offensive coordinator, mixing some things in. They're sprinting their quarterback out and throwing to the side he's sprinting to, yet they're running that delayed draw off of it. Here you see the play going to the right. Nope, there it comes back to the left. Nice move right there by Hendry. And then the missed tackle right there. C. Grant had a chance to bring him down short of the first down. Couldn't make the tackle.
This drive began back inside the Akron 10-yard line. Hendry going wide. Gets a good seal block on the flank that time. Nice play made out in front for the Akron Zips. That was Ashante Barbie.
Boy, what a nice block, as you said. Barbie out in front of Hendry. Really sealed off that defense and enabled Hendry to pick up a nice little gain there. You can get your blocking back on a defensive back. That's a good sign. When he doesn't have to get tied up with a linebacker or picking up a lineman, get him in the secondary, you're going to get some positive yardage.
2nd down. Fry with pressure immediately. And it's a completion to the Buckeye 48-yard line. Matt Zerker, the fullback, solid all-purpose back. 2-time academic all-MAC selection from Orrville, Ohio. Senior. Donnie Nicky made the stop. First down for the Akron Zips on a gain of about 5 yards. Coming up on 3.5 minutes to go in this first half. Fry from the pocket. Schifino gobbled up. Derek Ross read it like a book. Loss of 2.
Wayne, it's hard to run that play all the way across the field. Well, you're on the left hash mark and you're trying to throw that all the way to the right. It takes the ball too long to get there, and the defensive back can react. See how far that ball is in the air? By that time, Derek Ross can read the play, come up and react to it. You're a little better off running that play when the ball's in midfield or more in the middle of the hashes.
Ross handed off. He may be shaken up. Jim Barber will check that out for us in a few moments. Second down. Fry off play action. Has time, has a receiver. Ridley, first down and more. Inside the 30-yard line. Donnie Nicky made the tackle. First down for Akron on what has become their best drive of the day, Randy. At the 27-yard line, they set up shop, 1st and 10.
Well-designed play. Both wide receivers going across the field the opposite direction. You delay your tight end, then you sneak him underneath, zone coverage, wide open. Nice touch by Fry to get the ball to him.
Brandon Payne. And he delivered a shot that time to the Ohio State defensive back, C. Grant. Pickup of about 3 yards.
It's good to see C. Grant back in there making this tackle, but look at the push your Akron Zips get. When you can get a little bit of push, give your back the corner, especially a back like Payne with that low center of gravity, he's going to get some momentum, and then even when you make contact, he pushes you forward.
Second down, about 7. Fry. Ashante Barbie to the 15-yard line. First down for Akron. Nicky and Wilhelm collaborate on the stop.
Well, Jim Tressel is not going to be very happy with the poor tackling his defense has shown this drive. Just a simple little bootleg. You get the ball out to your back, but there's the missed tackle by Joe Cooper. Gives the back a chance to pick up another 7 or 8 yards and the first down. We haven't seen that defense miss tackles earlier in this game like we have this drive.
Timeout called on the field. I'll tell you what, you've got to respect what Lee Owens and his club has come in here. They've gotten down 21-0, but they haven't flinched. And there's Paul Winters in the middle of the picture right there, talking with Charlie Fry. Paul Winters, the offensive coordinator.
Boy, he has done an excellent job calling plays the last couple of years, and even today, mixing things up and keeping things balanced.
Coming up at halftime, we'll hear from Mike Gleason with a Heisman feature. Let's update you on the Big Ten scores. Current drive has covered 72 yards at 11 plays. It began back on the 12-yard line in Akron territory.
And I have to think Lee Owens, the head coach, Paul Winters, you get your team over there and you say, guys, forget about the scoreboard.
Sure.
Let's have fun. We're here. Last week was a huge game for Akron. It was a conference game. They won it on a last-second field goal. The next couple of weeks, today, the start of that, they're not conference games. You come in as big underdogs. Let's just go out and play and have fun.
They won't play another conference game until October 6th. Any way you cut it, they're going to be in first place in their conference, winning percentage-wise.
And you go out, you do some positive things, you have fun. It's really showing in this drive so far.
Fry going for Shafino. Touchdown!
Well, we had a great camera angle on that. What a beautiful throw by Fry. And a nice drive by this Akron team to put things together and make some plays. Fry's got plenty of time. Gives the receiver a chance to make the play. There's the catch. That was close. Couldn't quite tell from right there, but that one was going to be close.
Looked like he had a foot on the back line of the end zone.
You only need 1 foot in, but it's got to be completely in.
Zach Durr, his 38-yard field goal as time expired, beat Ohio 9 nights ago. The MAC Special Teams Player of the Week puts the extra point through the uprights, and the Akron Zips are on the board on a most impressive drive. 12 plays, 88 yards.
Wayne, what really stands out in that drive was they had players making plays. They had some missed tackles. Take a look at this again. Watch the foot, see if it comes down inbounds.
Looks like
yeah, it does.
Looks like a very good call.
I think it did.
And Randy, the official on the far side, who was probably closest to the play, didn't make the call. He waited for the official from the middle portion of the field who had a better look at where the foot was to make that call. That's why I hesitated for a moment, and everybody hesitated.
Well, they hesitated, so.
But it turned out to be the right call.
Appears to be the right call. And once again, I was making the point, that drive, several Akron Zips made the plays. The backs had some forced some missed tackles, picked up some first downs on third downs. Schifino there making the nice catch on a beautifully thrown ball by Fry. And, you know, that's fun for these guys. You come out here, you do something good like that, you put yourself back in the game now, 21-7.
They converted 2 third and long situations, Randy, with misdirection running plays on that drive to get out of their own end.
They didn't do it with a lot of trickery, not the reverses, not the screens. They stayed in their offense and they let their players make some plays, and they did.
All right, Zach Durr, there's some wind on the floor of the stadium. Blew the football off the tee momentarily. Jonathan Wells, Sam Maldonado back deep. Durr's kick to Wells at the 3. Cut down nicely. I want to tell you something. Ricky Coble made a great undercut move on that play and clipped the legs out from under Jonathan Wells. Ohio State will start at the 21-yard line of Buckeye territory.
You saw Colbert not only lose his helmet, but he was picking it up in pieces there. His ear pads are in one area. He's trying to put that back together. We talk about Ohio State's linebackers, and Colbert's one of the linebackers here for Akron. Take a look. The lower left of the screen just takes a block. Ooh, what a nice block. You know, they call some of those blocks pancakes. Well, when you get pancakes and you lose your helmet, that's going to be some noise in the film room on Monday.
I think in that case you've been splattered. Here we go. First down, Ohio State at the 21-yard line. Belisari back in at quarterback. He's a good athlete. I hearken back to the John Cooper story about Belisari when the kid was a freshman. Coop wanted to play him at safety. Felt he'd be the best safety they had on the football team. But Steve Belisari wanted to play quarterback.
Well, he wanted to play quarterback. He knew he wasn't going to do it as a freshman, and he just wanted to get on the field. So he did
played
play
special teams
and a backup safety. If Ed gave him a chance to get on the field, then as Joe Germain left, he had a chance to take over here at quarterback.
Second down off the gain of 9. Football to the 30-yard line. Belisari escaping in the backfield momentarily. Brought down to the 30-yard line, a yard short of the first down. Marcus Hayes made the stop. No gain virtually, and it becomes for Ohio State 3rd and 1.
And Wayne, you look at different situations if you're a head coach that you want to see your team put in. We saw Ohio State with their back to their own end zone. Now Jim Tressel is getting a chance to see his offense execute the 2-minute drill. Can they do it? That's good. We do it in practice all the time. Let's get it in a real game.
3rd and 1. Maldonado read the hole beautifully. There wasn't much of one, and he had to freelance just a bit on that play, but made the right cut toward the inside and picks up the first down on a gain of 5. Fuller and Coble collaborate.
Now the clock will stop for the first down, but then we'll start again. Less than 1:10 to go. And we'll see if this Buckeye offense goes into their hurry-up mode and tries to put at least 3 points on the board.
Bryant's at the top of your screen. Jenkins at the bottom. They're the receivers. Belisari to the air. Wide open is Jenkins. Got what he could and then stepped out of bounds to stop the clock. The 43-yard line of the Akron Zips. Coble gave plenty of cushion that time on the defense.
Well, and when you've got some speed at the wide receiver position, you run that defensive back off. If you're running a good route, they're going to turn their shoulders thinking you're going deep. You cut to the outside, and it's going to be a real easy pass to make if you're the quarterback, because you're going to be wide open. We've seen that a couple of times with Jenkins.
21 yards on the gain to the Zips 43-yard line. Inside a minute to go in the half. Ricky Bryant in motion. Belisari to the air. Once again, he's got Jenkins shoved out of bounds on the near side of the 26-yard line by Ricky Coble.
Belisari is doing a nice job of throwing the ball on time. Right as the receiver is making his cut, boom, there's the ball. It's in the air. The receiver just coming out of his route, and you're going to get the ball there before the defensive back can ever react.
Belisari has played in the last 3 years now under 3 offensive coordinators, 3 different systems, and 2 head coaches. And he told me yesterday, he said, you know what? I feel like I know a lot of football. Good throw there. Ricky Bryant stacked up and driven down. They're going to mark it just inside the 20. 35, make it 36 seconds to go in the half. The clock is stopped. Battle got over to make the stop along with John Kelly.
We had
Jim Tressel now visits with his senior quarterback. Belisari 9 of 13, 133 yards and a touchdown. And Coach Tressel comes to Ohio State. Been an assistant coach at Ohio State. Also in his career had been an assistant at Akron as well. 15 seasons though at Youngstown where he made his mark. And how about those national championships?
a different kind of athlete coaching the Division I AA. Sometimes you really have to be creative as a coach because you don't always have the best talent. And here, I don't think that's going to be a problem, nor has it ever been a problem. As you look at the first-year coaches and the success they've had, all of them with winning records. They're high expectations.
Ohio State is driven to the 19-yard line of the Akron Zips, facing second down and about 3 yards to go. 36 seconds to go in this first half. Ohio State has one timeout remaining. Good protection for Belisari. He'll take it himself. Fumbles the football. And a pile up near the 17-yard line. The Zips say they've got it. We'll wait till they unravel.
I think it's going to be Ohio State ball. Belisari, I think, had the first down, but when the ball came out, it came backwards.
It was recovered by Shane Olivier of Ohio State. And now the final timeout taken by Ohio State.
There you can see he has the first down. The hit causes the ball to come out, brings it backwards, and now it's not going to be the first down, and therefore causes Ohio State to have to call that timeout because the first down would have stopped the clock. Now that's a situation we talk about Belisari's decision making. When you're inside of 30 seconds like that, you're deep into the other team's territory. Instead of trying to run the ball and get something where you're going to have to call a time, just throw it out of bounds. You know, just throw it out, regroup, come back. Now you'd have third down again and a chance to make a call and give a play a better chance to succeed.
You know, we showed you a graphic of first-year Ohio State head coaches and their records, and John Cooper 4-6-1. We want to make sure we got that thing taken care of for you. 4-3-2 for Woody Hayes. How about Earl Bruce? 11-1. Well, I don't know if you want to start out that well, do you?
You know, and one thing with these coaching changes that have happened at Ohio State, especially now with John Cooper, it necessarily wasn't because they didn't have the talent and they weren't winning on the field. There were a lot of other things that led to that. So as Jim Tressel comes in here, he's taken over a pretty talented team. A lot of coaching changes. You take over a losing team, you're given a lot more opportunity. Here, Tressel, talents here, they got to perform.
3rd and 2. Belisari to the end zone, and he overshot it. Jenkins, Michael Jenkins, who was double covered in the corner of the end zone. Fuller and Coble were there defensively for Akron. Now with 13 seconds to go, they bring the field goal unit on.
Good throw by Belisari. Put the ball in a position where only your guy can make the catch. If he's not there, it goes incomplete. You give your field goal kicker a chance to put 3 points on the board, though. Don't try and force something that's not there and take a scoring opportunity away from your team.
Mike Nugent, true freshman from Centerville, Ohio, kicked a 52-yard field goal in high school. This will be a 35-yard attempt. And it's no good. A line drive, he hooked it toward the near side. Well, the kicking game was an area of concern in the spring practice for Ohio State.
And not just the place kicking, it was the punting as well.
Yep. For the Akron Zips, well, they survived the 2-minute offense of the Buckeyes. They trailed 21-7 with 9 seconds to go in the half.
Wayne, I think Akron's got to feel pretty good about themselves going in at halftime now. The last drive, a nice drive, put 7 points on the board. And they withstand that 2-minute drill by Ohio State, and they're still going to go into halftime now, only down by 14.
And what I'm impressed with Charlie Fry is not so much his accuracy at quarterback, but I'm impressed with his composure. And that last 88-yard drive in 12 plays to the touchdown on the throw to Schifino in the corner of the end zone. That was well done.
Well, Lee Owens said that if they could withstand the first 7 or 8 minutes, if they could survive the first 7 or 8 minutes, they thought they could play with the Buckeyes, and he had to have his players convinced of that. Even though they got down 14-0, they certainly didn't give up. And now I think they feel better about their chances of playing here in the second half.
So at halftime, the Scarlet and Gray head to the locker room, leading 21-7 here at the rededicated Ohio Stadium on a warm sultry afternoon in Central Ohio. And so if you're the Akron Zips, you feel pretty good about yourself. You've survived the might of Ohio State. You've seen what the Buckeyes can do, especially in the ground game, Randy. And as you mentioned, now you go to the locker room, you try to make some adjustments and try to put together you're going to have to get off to a good start in the third quarter. There's no doubt about that.
And you're going to start on defense, but I think you at least have to feel good about being able to come out and have fun.
Let's get down to the field, and Jim Barber standing by with the head coach of the Buckeyes.
Thank you, guys. Jim Tressel's first half as a head coach of Ohio State with a 14-point lead. How would you assess it?
Well, I thought we did some real good things. Thought we played some real good defense early. Thought we moved the ball early when we were in some rhythm. We did a little substituting. We want to get a lot of guys playing. May have lost our rhythm a little bit. I think we didn't tackle very well that last part of the second quarter, but you got to give Akron credit. You know, they're a good football team, especially on offense, and believes in themselves.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And Akron trailing by just 14, as you mentioned, guys, still very much in this football game.
Halftime activities coming up from Ohio Stadium. 21-7 Buckeyes. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+.
We will return you back to Columbus, Ohio. Biggest crowd ever to see the Bucs at home, and they're leading at halftime over Akron 21-7. I'm Jim Barber. Let us catch you up to speed as to what's happening across the country. A couple of games already in the books, and that happened earlier this week. Indiana down 35-0 in this game, blown out at Raleigh, North Carolina, while Northwestern just 7 first-half points before the offense got going to win in the city of lost wages last night. Michigan with a huge one against Washington. The Wolverines, the highest-rated Big Ten team in the country. Another entertaining game for Wisconsin. Boy, they've had some really good ones so far. How about Joe Novak's defense at Northern Illinois, holding to that high-octane offense at just 3 points so far, midway quarter number 2. Iowa has outscored opponents 75-0 in the first 2 weeks. Man, what a difference a year makes. Michigan State just underway at home against Central Michigan and the Chips. Minnesota at the Metrodome will be playing a little bit later against Louisa Lafayette. As for the top 25, Miami, that great performance against Penn State on the road, taking on Rutgers in the heat and the humidity today. North Carolina trailed 14-0, but has come back against Mack Brown, who coached at North Carolina. Virginia Tech got started slow, leading big. Everybody's saying, what's wrong with Georgia Tech's offense? Nothing. UCLA has come back to lead, and Clemson in a tight one in Death Valley in the first quarter by a score of 7-7. So you are up to date with what's happening across the country. And again, here in Columbus, Akron survives Ohio State at the end of the first half and trails in this football game by just 2 scores, 21-7. Wonderful atmosphere for college football. Not a bad football game at the break. Ohio State leading Akron 21-7. Jim Barber back in historic Ohio Stadium here in Columbus, Ohio. As you know, if you know your Ohio State history, the Buckeyes have won 6 Heisman trophies, but how they do it and how it's done, not easy questions. Perhaps Mike Gleason has the answers.
The Heisman Trophy is the most prestigious trophy in college football. And universities will do whatever it takes to get their best player a seat at the Downtown Athletic Club in early December. But it wasn't always this way.
The first year, you only could vote for a player east of the Mississippi. And Jay Berwanger won the trophy, and I think he got a telegram or a letter that he won it. And to him, a bigger award was being named Big Ten Player of the Year by the Chicago Tribune. It wasn't a big thing then. It wasn't.
All of that changed when a Notre Dame quarterback altered the pronunciation of his name from Joe Theismann to Joe Theismann.
And I also knew in the middle 60s when my mail became cluttered with football junk mail from creative and inventive SIDs. and they piled up and piled up and piled up. And I said, well, geez, I guess it's important to them for them to win this thing.
How important? Well, the University of Oregon, for example, spent $250,000 on a billboard in New York City to pump up Joey Harrington for the Heisman.
I would be so bold to say that I would have spent far more than what we did spend because of the positive attention that then did evolve out of the billboard.
I'm just smiling and having a good time. I mean, how many people in 10 years, 20 years can look back and tell their kids, you know, hey, you know, I had a billboard, you know, 100 feet tall in downtown Manhattan.
People who are saying that we're trying to buy the Heisman Trophy for Joey, that bothers me. That is the most incorrect statement of all.
It's almost gotten to the point where many believe the Heisman is no longer won on the field.
It's almost become a contest for sports information directors. Whose marketing plan is the catchiest? Anything to get voters hyped over their candidate. The Oregon billboard isn't the only new twist. UNLV had to find a sponsor so they could afford the billboards and posters for Jason Thomas's campaign. Only they forgot to tell him when they went up.
I didn't know that it was out at the time, and I was just, driving down the street, and I look up, and I'm like, I had to take a quick peek, and I'm like, oh, that's me up there, and it was kind of strange because I never saw myself in nothing that big before, and I didn't actually know they were coming up that soon, and it was definitely an experience, and that's when I knew, it was here.
But the most creative campaigns don't mean you'll win the Heisman. A lot of it has to do with playing on a winning football team. For instance, the last 10 winners have come from teams that have averaged an 11-1 record. Michigan has seen 2 winners in that span, but it wasn't because of advertising.
I know a lot of people believe that the Heisman Trophy is something that, you really have to strive for, you really have to get. And it's funny because at Michigan, we really believe that it ought to be put into the team concept.
He sounds convinced, but a perfect 11-0 regular season record for the Wolverines may have helped Charles Woodson in '97, but it's one incredible play that may have made the difference.
Peyton Manning was the man to beat that year. And we had to wait for Charles to do something special. And what he did special was the great interception against Michigan State, the one-handed interception that nobody believed he came down with. And we had a lot of major media there, and that was the kickoff. So I went into the locker room, grabbed Charles's hand and says, now we're off.
So maybe the billboards are a waste of money, and it doesn't matter how many games your team wins. Maybe, just maybe, you need to do something mythical when everybody's watching. The image of Eddie George trouncing a highly ranked Illinois defense for 314 yards. Desmond Howard's punt return for a touchdown against Ohio State, including Pose. Or going back to Doug Flutie's miracle pass against Miami in '84.
Deep one for the end zone. Phelan is down there. Oh, he got it! He got it! He got it! Touchdown!
All mythical feats, but also televised feats that were replayed on SportsCenter time and again.
I was the receiver coach when Desmond Howard won it in Michigan, and we had TV exposure early, and his stats were impressive. He had all these touchdowns. People don't know they were like 2 and 3 and 5 yard touchdown passes, but most people didn't know that. They just saw these touchdowns. So I think TV exposure, statistics, are keys, and winning.
Which brings us to the almighty stats. Cameron star player at Indiana, Antoine Randall promises to put up great numbers. Ricky Williams took home the trophy in '98 by doing so. Ron Dane did the same in '99. Bottom line, though, there is no clear-cut way to explain what wins a Heisman Trophy. This year, will Thomas's athleticism give him the lead, or will Oregon's Harrington and his billboard be the man? Maybe Oregon State's Ken Simonton will bust on the scene with huge rushing numbers and make a run at the national title. And of course, don't count out Eric Crouch, who may have the Nebraska tradition, the numbers, and the national title hunt to propel him. Because in the end, isn't it all about winning the national title? One would think. But no matter how bizarre the hype or how gaudy the stats, the Heisman Trophy is the pinnacle of all awards.
100 years from now, the only 2 names people will remember from the year 2001 will be who the president is and who won the Heisman Trophy. It is the one. 10 years from now, nobody's going to know who won the MVP in baseball this year. It just is because it's college kids, and we still have that romantic feeling of Saturday afternoons, fall, the leaves changing. That's why.
Thank you, Mike. Perhaps we'll see a Heisman Trophy win in the future here as a great moment in Ohio State football emerging on this very field.
The Ohio State Buckeyes, the pageantry of football in this venerable stadium. I'll tell you something, Randy, it's really a pleasure to be here. The rededication day, there's a lot of excitement here in Central Ohio with this new facility.
Well, not only that, like you said, the rededication, Jim Tressel's first game here, you could sense the excitement. And I mean, holy cow, these people in Ohio, they live for what, 7-8 weekends
Yes.
a year with Ohio State football, and they're very excited about it. I don't think they've been disappointed.
No, not yet. Let's take a look at some of the highlights as you take a look at the Ohio State Buckeyes. They came out strong on their third possession. They got Jonathan Wells into the end zone.
Well, and this is what he does so well. He's a north and south runner. He goes straight ahead. That time a couple of nice moves, gets him into the end zone, but yet they also get their fullback involved. Jamar Martin, nice job catching this ball, turning it up, gets them in the end zone for their second touchdown. Special teams has been a big part of what Ohio State's done. Questions coming into this game. Here they get the turnover, take over in excellent field position. This leads to Wells' second touchdown. Just a short run, puts them up 21-0. Nice job there. Yet Akron comes back. Here's their touchdown. A nice throw by Fry to Schifino. Gets that foot in. We'll take a second look at this to make sure that it's in there. Nice job catching that ball, clearly in bounds, puts them on the board.
So the Buckeyes with the 21-7 lead here at halftime, and here are some of the numbers behind the scoring number.
It's been a nice job. Both teams, first downs, done a nice job. Rushing yards pretty there. The passing yards, Ohio State with a little advantage. Neither team doing very well on third down, but Wells 68 of the yards and 2 TDs, though most of that came in the first quarter. Second quarter, Akron tightened things up a little bit.
So the Buckeyes come out from under the scarlet awning, back to the playing field for the second half of this afternoon's game. It's Ohio State 21, Akron 7. Ohio State leading 21-7 here over the Akron Zips. Steve Belisari, good first half numbers overall. 133 yards passing on 9 of 14 marksmanship and a touchdown. Starting for the third year in a row. Jim Tressel's first game here at Ohio State. The Buckeyes have won 22 consecutive home openers. And they've got a 14-point lead heading into the last 2 quarters of this one. Ohio State will receive to start the second half. So in a moment we'll see Zach Durr and the Akron kicking team out on the field. There is Durr, number 14. The MAC Special Teams Player of the Week. And Jonathan Wells back deep along with Sam Maldonado. Wells 2 touchdowns in the first half.
You don't see that a lot. Both of these deep men for Ohio State, their top 2 tailbacks, their feeling is we're so deep at that position, we want to get the guys that have the best chance of making something happen, get the ball in their hands as often as we can, and that's why you see them both back there right now.
All right, start of the second half. And Durr with his kickoff. And this one skips over the pylon and through the end zone. So it'll be first down for the Buckeyes from the 20. Wells let that one go.
Well, the first drive of the second half is so important. You have a chance to make adjustments at halftime. You come out and you can set the pace for the second half. Defensively, Akron really stiffened in the second quarter, did a nice job of forcing Ohio State, kept them out of the end zone except for that one off of the turnover where they took over on the 2-yard line. So if they can carry that momentum over from the second quarter success they had, they make a game of this here.
Meanwhile, if you're Ohio State and they have come out with 2 tight ends, you might go back to that power running game you were performing in the first quarter.
It worked so well for them there. I think that's what they're going to try and do.
Wells started left, takes it up the middle. He is swarmed across the 20 near the 22-yard line. Second down coming up off the gain of a yard or 2.
Wayne, Ohio State had success with that power running game that you just mentioned, but when they started to have success with it was after they started mixing in some of the play action passing and the passes into the flats. They got their fullback involved. That widened the linebackers up a little bit, and he gave their linemen a little better angle to make some blocks. So I think that's what they'll go back to, the running game complemented by the shorter passing game.
Stepanovich in the ball game at the left guard spot now. Did not start today. Nice catch here by Michael Jenkins for a first down to the 34. The pass thrown a bit behind him. Myers, the linebacker, got over in coverage.
Boy, that was a really nice catch. It's so hard to adjust backwards when it's a short route and you're running the exact opposite direction that the ball's coming from. That was a real nice job of slowing himself down, being under control, catching that ball in his hands, not letting it get into his body. Nice job.
A gain of 14 yards on the play. First drive of the second half for the Buckeyes. Martin, and this time the coverage equal to the task. Brad Detweiler, the safety, over to make the stop. Detweiler, a senior from North Canton, Ohio. Transfer from Buffalo, had 6 tackles last week and a forced fumble against Ohio.
And getting Martin involved in this second half quickly. Nice job of bringing him down. Detweiler one-on-one out there. That's a big back to bring down. Detweiler holds on and brings him down and actually holds him to just a yard gain. That's a nice defensive play.
Martin is 6 feet and 245, so he is a load. Second down. Blitz coming. Bryant the catch, shakes one defender. Fuller able to get him to the ground. With help from Colbert, the linebacker, but it's a first down to the 46-yard line of Akron.
Well, not a bad play here by Akron. When you come with the blitz, you got one-on-one coverage. If you give up the completion, you can't give up the big play. And it was a nice job that time by Fuller coming over and helping out with McKenzie so that doesn't turn into a touchdown play, because Bryant did a nice job of breaking that first tackle.
18-yard gain. There's the average per play. Ohio State up around 6 yards. Short drop by Belisari. Nearly picked away by Myers, the linebacker. He was trying to thread the needle that time to Chris Vance.
Well, good decisions are part of what Steve Belisari needs to work on. You never throw the ball late over the middle. If you're going to throw it over the middle, throw it early. Look at all those white jerseys in there. That's your second or third receiver to go to, and you very seldom have good things happen when you throw it late over the middle.
You know, if Myers didn't break it up, Fuller might have intercepted it.
There were a couple of guys there that would have had an opportunity.
2nd and 10.
But nowhere did I hear you say Vance had a chance to catch it.
Good catch by Jenkins underneath the coverage of Coble. It's a first down near the 32-yard line of Akron.
Boy, what a nice throw by Belisari. The only spot he could put that ball, it was decent coverage by Coble, but because Belisari threw it on time and threw it to a perfect spot, it turns out to be a nice catch and a completion. You just can't throw it any better than that.
12-yard gain, make it a 13-yard gain to the 32. Ohio State on the opening drive of the second half, on the move. Wells. Myers first, and then he got some help from his friends. Pickup of about 3 to the 29.
Well, I have been impressed with Ryan Myers, the middle linebacker here for Akron, number 56. He is in on a lot of tackles, a lot of hits, and you can't block everybody when you bring your safeties up there, but he reads that, makes the hit, and there are a lot of white jerseys running to that ball out there. I certainly would say that the success Ohio State has had hasn't deflated anything that Akron's wanted to do.
Meanwhile, Alex Stepanovich, who was to start here today but did not, has been suffering the effects of an ankle injury. Apparently re-injured the ankle again, came limping off. Adrian Clark back in at left tackle. Tyson Walter to left guard. Jonathan Wells to the 24-yard line of the Akron Zips. Colbert and Myers collaborate on the stop.
We're just talking about Myers. What a nice tackle that time, too. That play designed to go over left tackle. Wells does a nice job of seeing it, cuts it back more to the inside. Myers comes up with a nice tackle right there, saves the first down.
It becomes a third down, about 2 yards to go. The football to the 24-yard line in Akron territory. 2 tight ends out of the I formation, and Vance the lone receiver at the top of your screen.
This is where Ohio State's had a lot of success running right off a tackle.
Wells, big hole, first down and more, plowing to the 14-yard line. Fuller, the safety, took the brunt of the hit. A runaway locomotive going down. Jonathan Wells.
Well, you see Belisari at the line of scrimmage calling direction now. He's calling it to the left. Pretty good seal right there. Wells cuts it back in a huge hole when you only need 2 yards for the first down. He had 5 or 6 before contact was ever made.
Darnell Sanders, you saw at the top of your screen in that replay, pancaking his man, the tight end.
He has really developed as a blocker.
They fumble the snap, and the Zips come up with it. It's Akron football. The recovery by Chris Smith. Whoa, what a big swing and momentum that may provide here.
Well, Ohio State was doing what they wanted to this drive. They were putting things together. There it looks like the ball came up well. Belisari may have been pulling out a little early. A lot of times you can tell when the ball goes straight down to the ground, it hits the quarterback square in the hands, and he just doesn't get it. When it squirts out to one side or the other, it's usually the center not bringing it up straight. But that time, it went straight down. It looked like Belisari just couldn't hold on to it.
So the redshirt freshman Charlie Fry, for the first time in the second half, goes to Brandon Payne, gets a good block off the flank of the offense, got a first down and more. He's across the 35-yard line, out near the 36.
Wayne, I'm back to talking about Ohio State that last drive. They were doing things very well, mixing up things, controlling the ball, and then they turn over. Now Akron comes out with a little confidence, gets a nice block right there. And they turn this into their big play right off the bat, much like they ended the second quarter.
That was Jeff Breskowiak on the block, a 4-year starter, one of the MAC's top blockers. And he showed it there. First down to the 36. Fry threw it off his back foot. Nearly intercepted by Joe Cooper. He was covering the tight end Tim Ridley like a glove at the 45.
Wayne, that was really a pretty good play by everybody. Fry did a nice job selling the play action to this side. Throws the ball because he's got a man in his face. He can't set his feet right here, and yet he puts it in a pretty good spot. Yet it's just really good coverage by Joe Cooper right there. So really, it's one of those plays where everybody did a pretty nice job.
But offensively, it's an incompletion, 2nd and 10. So somebody's unhappy. Fry has time. Doesn't have a receiver. Had to escape out of bounds. It looked like they set that thing up very well, Randy, but nobody out there for Fry as he rolled toward the far side.
No, that's exactly right. They didn't have anybody open. They're only releasing 3 receivers into the pass route. They're trying to keep their backs in to help with protection and with the play action. And that time, very good coverage by the Ohio State secondary, and Fry had nowhere to go.
On their touchdown drive, the Zips converted 2 third and long situations. They're 3rd and 10 here. Fry. Overshot Shafino and a penalty marker down. There was contact by C. Grant on the coverage of Jake Shafino.
Wayne, you could see Shafino's shoe come off while the ball was in the air. You knew there had to be some kind of contact going on. Whether the ball would have been catchable or not, I couldn't tell from the live action we saw. And that's what we're ruling, is there was no penalty because the ball was uncatchable, but there certainly was contact. Take a look at it again. We've got Shafino, number 41, isolated here. There's the contact there. You can see right there the feet get tied up, but the ball looked more like it was out of bounds there than maybe the first shot. So it looked like a good call.
So C. Grant exonerated on that play. Andy Jordan's punt hops out of bounds near the 26-yard line of Ohio State. And the Buckeyes will set up shop from there. Still leading 21-7 in the 3rd quarter at Columbus. Back in Columbus, the band gets a break after the halftime show. They've got about 600 members of an alumni band here today. It's Band Day, or Alumni Band Day, I should say, at Ohio Stadium. First down for the Buckeyes. Belisari off the hands of Martin. Incomplete. Jim Barber's on the sidelines. Jim?
Wayne, Jim Tressel's first game as head coach of the Buckeyes going much better than his first one did at Youngstown State. That was a game where he was getting blown out by 40-some points back in the 80s. And, of course, he had taken that job right after being an assistant at Ohio State. The fans were so upset with the first-year coach at Youngstown State. They said, why didn't you go back to Columbus? And 15 or 16 years later, he did.
It took him 16 years. He finally made his way back here.
Got around to it.
So what you're saying, Jim, he's just a slow learner.
Absolutely, but a short one.
2nd down. Belisari under a blitz. Fumbles. Still up for grabs. I believe the Zips gathered it in. Detweiler, I think the safety got it. Myers forced it on the sack.
Wayne, I think that snap came up early, and that's why the defense got such a jump. Belisari wasn't expecting it to come up as quickly as it did. Here you see, watch it, see the ball comes up, the linemen aren't even moving yet. That gives your defense a jump, and they came through there untouched.
Well, that was Ryan Myers, the junior from Wellington, Ohio, who forced the sack, and then the recovery made by Brad Detweiler.
I think it was Jamar Martin that wound up jumping on that for Ohio State, because
did he get it back?
They retained possession. Martin wrestles it away from him down on the ground.
Well, I'd say Detweiler came up with it. Apparently the officials had made a ruling before Detweiler came away with it, but you're right. Martin able to recover back inside the 10 on 3rd down and long. Maldonado got a good chunk of it back, but not nearly enough for the 1st down out to the 20-yard line.
Well, I think Ohio State's the team that seems to be a little out of sync at the start of this second half, and it's mostly with the center and the quarterback. A couple of bobbles here put them in an unenviable position, and that time it cost them a possession. It's now 4th and long. They're going to have to turn the ball over to where Akron should get fairly decent field position.
I don't know how Detweiler didn't get that fumble. He was right on it. Martin took it away in the pile, like you said. And one play later, it's punt formation time. B.J. Sander on for the Buckeyes. Payne waves everybody off, and it takes an Akron hop and skips out of bounds near the 45-yard line of Ohio State. That one went 5 yards the wrong way. Just a 25-yard punt by B.J. Sander would have been a great wedge shot. You're watching Big Ten football from ESPN+. Wayne Larrivee, Randy Wright, Jim Barber back in Columbus. Jamar Martin made a fumble recovery off a sack of Steve Belisari that only put off a punt by 1 play. And now, after that punt backed up from the 50 to the 45, the Akron Zips their best field position basically to start a drive. They begin at the 45-yard line in Ohio State territory. Randy, this, to me, I would think this would be the crucial drive for this Akron team. Payne gets very little, if anything, on that.
Well, the longer Ohio State lets them stay around by helping them the way they did the last drive with some of the turnovers and some of the mistakes, they're going to let Akron think they can play with them, and then a key play here or there, a missed tackle turns into a big play, a defensive back falls down. All of a sudden, it's a real tight ball game.
Well, and again, you have 7:50 to go in the 3rd. You're starting this drive at the 45 of Ohio State. You're down by 14. This is your opportunity, your window of opportunity if you're the Akron Zips. Fry on the roll. Going deep, Schifino, diving grab at the Ohio State 21-yard line.
What a nice throw by Fry to lead his receiver away from the defender. He threw that ball on a frozen rope in some pretty heavy traffic. Gets his feet set, sees his man open up, and leads Schifino away from the defender. Nice job. Wayne, you were talking earlier about the Ohio State offense and this being an important drive. Ohio State really had scored since the 1st quarter other than that special teams turnover.
Hendry following the block. Not much there. 2nd down coming up. Wilhelm and Simon Frazier, a true freshman whom they are very high on at defensive end. Team up on the stop. Wisconsin and Fresno State. Things have tightened considerably in Madison. Illinois trailing Northern Illinois at home. Illinois coming off a big win on the road at California. How about Iowa really putting it to Miami of Ohio?
They're putting some points on the board the last couple of weeks.
Michigan State leading Central Michigan. 2nd down for Fry and company. Fry under pressure. Got by Wilhelm. Gets it away to the 14-yard line. Matt Cherry on the reception. Donnie Nicky got over on the coverage. And, you know, the thing you have to be impressed about is this quarterback, Randy, has not only a very strong arm, but almost all of the throwing he's doing is off the move. He's on the run.
And that's really how their offense is set up. They have very few straight drop back passes. 12 for 23. He's made some big plays. A lot of that, too, he's thrown away because the receivers have been covered. So he's probably throwing it more accurately than his statistics are showing.
3rd down. Option. Hendry going wide. Joe Cooper read it beautifully. Buried him back at the 20-yard line.
What a nice play by Joe Cooper. You can't let one man play both players on the option. Joe Cooper did just that. He had the quarterback, the ball was pitched by Fry, and then he comes over and makes the tackle. So right there, Fry pitches it off of Cooper, but Cooper recovers over. Great job.
Zach Durr for a field goal try. There's Joe Cooper. What a game he's played thus far. 37-yard field goal attempt by Zach Durr. His career long is 44. And he's got this one heading to the uprights. No good. He pushed it to the right side. So the Buckeyes survive. Just over 5 minutes to go in the third. Still 21-7 Ohio State. You're watching the Big Ten from ESPN+. 2 to go in the third. Ohio State leading 21-7. And the Buckeyes take over at the 20-yard line. 1st and 10. From the shotgun, Steve Belisari. Off the hands of Jenkins, who absorbed a hit by Jesse Smith. Steve Belisari is a physical player at quarterback. Matter of fact, we talked about the fact that John Cooper thought he'd be a very good defensive back. Well, today, I'll tell you what, this Akron defense came to hit, Randy.
Well, welcome to the start of the season. And you know he takes the hits when he runs the ball, but look what happens after he's throwing the ball and when he goes back to throw. And though he may get up and not be injured as slowly as he may get up sometimes, you wonder how that's going to affect his accuracy late in the game as those hits start to pile up.
2nd down. Wells bouncing to the outside. 1st down across the 30-yard line on a gain of 12 yards to the 32. Smith and Fuller make the stop for Akron.
Nice cut by Wells. Designed to go off a tackle. The Akron defense pinched it down. Wells saw that, cuts it to the outside. There's no containment there. So Wells, much more of a north and south runner, but when he needs to make a move to get to the outside, he's capable of doing that.
Some decent speed for a man of that size. 6'1", almost 235. 1st and 10. Bryant, the man in motion. Maldonado. Hayes had a shot at him. He missed him in the middle of the line, and Maldonado takes the 1st down marker out of play. Ricky Coble over to make the stop, gain of 11 yards.
Well, sometimes, Wayne, you just have to be your own blocker. There you see the defense coming, or the offense coming out. There's nobody blocking on the outside that time, and sometimes Maldonado just has to take that man on by himself. Does a nice job of turning what could have been a negative play into a positive gain.
First down at the 43-yard line, Buckeye territory. Again, Bryant, the man in motion. Maldonado. Ushered to the chalk marks at the midfield marker. Colbert, the linebacker, and a penalty marker is down.
Well, I think we're going to have a holding here against Ohio State, which is going to nullify a positive play and back them up into a still be 1st down, but 10 yards farther back.
On this drive, Randy, we're seeing the Ohio State backs.
During the run, holding, offense, 10 yards from the spot of the foul. Repeat, 1st down.
David Whitvet, the Big Ten official. We're starting to see the Ohio State backs get to the outside effectively. They weren't doing that so much in the 1st half, Randy. Is there an adjustment that you're seeing being made there?
Well, the adjustment's being made by Akron's defense. They're crashing the inside. These plays are designed to be run to the inside, but they're bouncing outside because that's what Akron's taken away.
So 1st down. Football back near the 37-yard line of Ohio State now. Belisari. Pass sailed wide of the intended target, Michael Jenkins. Ricky Coble had the coverage.
Wayne, we talked about the hits Belisari's been taking and how that is going to affect his accuracy. The last couple of passes to Jenkins have been off target. We saw the one that was high that Jenkins couldn't get, and that one a good 4 or 5 yards to the outside. Belisari's been very accurate up until just the last 4 or 5 passes.
2nd down and 16 for the senior from Boca Raton, Florida, starting his 23rd consecutive game at quarterback for the Buckeyes. Deep drop. Lots of time now on his own. Got by one man. and is tripped up across the 40-yard line. They're going to mark it barely at the 39. Brad Detweiler, the defensive back, able to make an undercut move, gain of maybe 2 yards. Randy, if you take a look at the scheme of things here in the state of Ohio, perhaps the most watched person in the state might be the Ohio State Buckeye head football coach.
Certainly the most criticized.
The second most is the Ohio State Buckeye quarterback, whoever that is. And it's been Belisari for a long time.
The most anonymous person may be the governor.
Yes.
At least in the fall.
Belisari. Oh, and this one. Oh, it's caught. Nearly intercepted and then caught. Chris Vance for the touchdown. yards. John Fuller almost had the pick. Look at this, right through his hands, and then Vance takes it the distance.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and Belisari's not been real accurate here on this drive, here in this quarter, and this is clearly a ball that should have been intercepted. Goes right through his hands, and boy, sometimes the bounces just go your way. And fortunately for Ohio State, turns into a huge play with really what could have been, it should have been another turnover.
So Chris Vance, 61-yard touchdown reception. Josh Houston for the point after. And he's got it through the uprights. The Buckeyes assume a 28-7 advantage over the Akron Zips with 3:37 to go in the third quarter.
Wayne, you just don't get that many opportunities to create things, especially on defense. And twice here in the second half, Akron has let things slip away. They had the sack of Belisari with the fumble. They couldn't come up with the ball, which would have given them position down on the 5 or 6 yard line. And that right there should have been an interception. Turns into not being able to make the play, and 7 points for Ohio State.
Let's get down to Jim Barber.
Guys, this whole stadium was shocked at the play. How about Chris Vance watching on the sidelines, and I was watching him. He looked up at the scoreboard for the replay and started laughing and pointing as if, man, I don't know how I caught that, and then went in for a touchdown.
I'll tell you what, there is such little difference between a winning play and a losing play, and you saw it right there. That was a pass that
you take a look again, and it's just single coverage, and Belisari just throws the ball a little bit behind him, and Fuller just can't come up with the play. Maybe Fuller was more surprised the ball was that poorly thrown than Vance was. And you just don't have that many opportunities when you're coming into a stadium like this undermanned. You got to take advantage of those opportunities, and that's really 2 touchdowns that Akron has given Ohio State. The special teams fumble, which turned it over on the 2 yard line, and that touchdown right there.
Houston on the kickoff. And Henry lets it sail over his head through the end zone. The Zips will get it at their 20-yard line. Wisconsin has slipped behind Fresno State. Fresno State's a pretty good football program right now, Randy.
Well, you know, they're playing some good teams, and they're beating some good teams. They beat Colorado to start the year, and people are, well, Colorado's down. Colorado comes right back and handles Colorado State. Fresno State's not afraid of playing the big boys, and they're going to put some points on the board.
Oregon State in one, right?
At home. So they're going to put some points on the board.
Not much there in the first play from scrimmage for the Zips on this drive. They now trail 28-7. Brandon Payne getting the call. Texas and North Carolina, things have tightened in that one. Virginia Tech over Western Michigan, and again Western Michigan goes to Ann Arbor next week. Georgia Tech piling it on the Navy. UCLA now comfortably in front of Kansas at halftime. Clemson by 10. Second down. Fry. Schifino cannot hang on. He had gotten a step behind the coverage of Derrick Ross. And it looked like a pretty good throw.
It looked like it from this angle, and a pretty good route by Schifino. Supposed to go to the outside. Couldn't get to the outside. Adjusts his pattern and comes in. Pretty nice move there by Schifino. Seniors run a lot of pass routes. Is only probably, I think it's 40-45 catches away, receptions away from being the all-time leader for Akron, and he's been impressive today.
3rd and 10. Fry under pressure. Gets it away. Diving grab. And it is a completion by Bates Zakos, the reception, but he is short of the first down. I'll tell you what, it was a jailbreak on the quarterback of the offensive backfield, and Charlie Fry did well just to get rid of the football.
Well, and you have to set your linemen up to make some good blocks. That time, Fry almost ran into the pressure, put himself under the gun, had to get rid of it under pressure, couldn't get the ball and hit his man in stride.
Big Ten football next week. Western Michigan, the Broncos on the road to take on the Wolverines, who are on the road up at Washington later today. Or as the people around here say, Randy, that school up north.
They don't mention it much. That's the band. The band's the only group here that mentions it.
Chris Vance, well rested after his 61-yard reception on the last series, gets Ohio State primo field position near the 49 of the Buckeyes. 37-yard punt. Andrew Wilson on the stop, a wide receiver.
Well, Ohio State now settled down after that big play offensively, and now they'll come out with a big lead. Excellent field position. We'll see if they can get into that rhythm that they had that first quarter that Jim Tressel told us he was going to try and establish again.
So Belisari at quarterback has gone most of the way. We did see Scott McMullen briefly in the second quarter for a couple of series. Hartsock, the tight end, in motion. Belisari, eluding defenders in the backfield, actually gets 2 yards on this play. How did he do that?
You know, Wayne, so often what happens to a quarterback is they get in excellent shape in the offseason and the summer workouts and everything they do. And then when you get into training camp, you don't get hit at all because teams don't let your quarterback get hit. Here you see he probably gets hit more on this play than he has all through camp. You get into your first game, you get hit a lot, and it wears on you. It's very draining, and you actually report to camp in better shape than you play the season in. And I think that's one thing that you see is these quarterbacks go on where they get tired early in the year because they're not used to taking those hits.
Chatham's in the slot, top of the screen, but they're on the ground this time. Lydell Ross, true freshman out of Tampa, Florida, one of the 3 heralded freshman running backs in this program now. I mentioned Jaja Riley from San Diego, Maurice Hall from Columbus, and Lydell Ross, who just carried the football, a true freshman out of Tampa, Florida. First team Class 6A All Florida selection. McMullen stepping into the lineup at quarterback.
I think Belisari got a gimpy leg on the last run that he had a couple of plays ago. He got up kind of gimpy and stayed in, but he's out getting attention over here on the sideline.
Looks like they're working on his left ankle. Snap is fumbled. Ball lying on the field at the 47-yard line, and the Zips cover this one. DeAndre Earl made the recovery and gets up limping, but happy heading to the sidelines.
The hardest thing to do as a backup quarterback is to be able to come into the game unexpected and perform. That time you've got to think of the simple little things. And a fumble snap again. It looked like Charles Bentley brought the ball up because it hit McMullen right in the hands, but maybe he just couldn't quite get both of them on there.
It's a couple of bad snaps here today, or snaps that have gone awry.
A couple of exchange problems.
Yeah, exchange problems. That's a good way to put it. There was a problem right there for Brandon Payne. He didn't have any blocking. He ran into a wall of scarlet-covered jerseys. Simon Frazier and Robert Reynolds collaborate on the stop. Frazier's second tackle of the day. We mentioned him. Much ballyhooed out of Upper Arlington, Ohio. Upper Arlington High School won the state championship here in Ohio last season. And they are really high on that kid. Third quarter winds to a close with the Buckeyes on top, 28-7. You are watching Big Ten football from ESPN+.
At Ohio Stadium, the score is 28-7 as we begin the fourth quarter. Steve Belisari, a minor foot sprain. The doctors told me he's cleared to play, but it'll be up to the coaches with a 3-touchdown lead, guys.
Thank you, Jim. Right now, the Akron Zips trying to put together a drive here. Facing a 2nd and 13 as we begin the 4th quarter. Of course, the big swing in this second half was that pass that went through the hands of the safety on a sheer interception. John Fuller into the hands of the Buckeye wide receiver Chris Vance, and he took it 61 yards for a score. Hardly anything there as the Buckeyes rise to the challenge. Through 3 quarters, Buckeyes 143 on the ground, and that's led to the time of possession edge.
It's a big plays through the passing game. A lot of those out routes that Belisari's been hitting Jenkins on, those things are adding up 12, 15, 20 yards at a shot. All of a sudden you look up, they got 240 yards passing.
The Zips had hoped to be able to run the football a little better than what they've been able to do here today. And that was the strength of their team, that offensive line, veteran group. 3rd down, 3rd and 12. Penalty markers all over the play. Nearly intercepted by Ross. Pass intended for Shafino appeared to be off the mark. Illegal motion, the call against the Akron Zips.
Ohio State coming with the pressure, with the blitz. Sometimes in anticipation of that, someone gets an early start. You can see the fullback that time, Zerker, started a little early.
Offense, the penalty is declined. 4th down.
Penalty will be declined, as you heard, and because of that pressure, things just kind of get out of sync and fry. Fortunately, that ball wasn't picked off for him, or it could have been 7 the other way. Although I'd have to say, I don't think Derrick Ross is going to get an opportunity any easier than that throughout the year.
That was almost right to him, wasn't it? Andy Jordan, last week in that game against Miami of Ohio, the entire game there were only 2 punts, one by Akron, one by Ohio. And here's the kick by Jordan. Fair catch signal made by Vance. Nobody down to cover, but it backs up. He puts some Velcro on that one, and it is touchdown inside the 1. How about that? I tell you. I wish I had a gap wedge that would back up like that one. Ohio State is backed up to start their next drive. If you follow the bouncing ball, look at this. There's no coverage down there. This thing really has to back up for.
Just like it was designed, and fortunately for Akron, that ball, the official ruled it down before he went into the end zone with it as he carried it in with him.
At quarterback, Scott McMullen. You heard the report from Jim Barber a moment ago. Steve Belisari, a slightly sprained foot. He may not come back into this game, although he is on the sidelines with his helmet on. Standing next to Craig Krenzel.
Well, a less than desirable position for Scott McMullen to take over the offense, but I'm sure Jim Tressel again is wanting to find out a little bit about his young sophomore. Yeah, I think he's probably not too disappointed that he's put in this situation. In fact, that may be one reason why he chose to put him in now instead of put Belisari out there.
2nd down and 9. Jonathan Wells met by Chris Smith. Man, he may have lost a yard. It's going to be 3rd and 10.
Wayne, Akron has had numerous opportunities, both offensively and defensively, to tighten up this game and make some big plays. They haven't been able to finish it, but I don't see any quit on either side of the ball.
You know, we saw the same scenario a week ago at Michigan with another MAC school. Miami, Ohio, had numerous opportunities in the 3rd quarter at Michigan to get into that game and just couldn't quite get it done. Mistakes, penalties, touchdowns called back. 3rd down. McMullen, play action from the end zone. And they got a 1st down. Nicely done to Michael Jenkins doing a square out. Maurice Taylor forced him out of the near side.
I think if the Buckeyes had some questions about their wide receivers, one of them has been answered today in Michael Jenkins. He has done a nice job running his routes, precise routes. Nice job catching the ball and turning it upfield. I think he's been a pleasant, positive answer today if there were some questions about him.
Drew Carter is another sophomore receiver. that is injured today. We're not seeing him. He's got good speed. And Chris Gamble, number 83, we've seen a little bit of him today. And Tressel likens him to a young Chris Carter. That's Ricky Bryant in motion. Jonathan Wells. Rambling to the 24-yard line. Wells on a gain of about 7 yards.
One thing we haven't seen, Wayne, with the game going the way it has, and maybe the Buckeyes being a little out of sync here in the second half, Ohio State hasn't had a chance to put in as many of their younger players and give them an extended opportunity to play. Years gone by, these kind of games, Ohio State, Michigan's, they use this to give a lot of their young players experience. Haven't really seen that today.
Wells. Split 2 defenders. Gets a first down to the 35-yard line. 11-yard gain for Jonathan Wells. And I get the impression now, and again, we talked to the head coach of the Akron Zips, Lee Owens, and the thing we talked about was, where's the difference in these Big Ten schools now and in the MAC schools? He says primarily it's in quality depth, and you see in a game like this that the MAC school may be getting worn down a little bit as we get into the fourth quarter.
And I think that was the weakness of this defense coming in, was being able to stop the run. And I think Ohio State has been doing that. Wells is having a little more success. Maldonado a little success. So I think that was a question mark coming in.
Maldonado up the middle. Not a lot there. Got about 2 yards. Mid portion of the defense rose to the occasion.
If you look back at the Buckeyes, they've generally had the one marquee back, whether it be your Eddie George or your Michael Wiley or whoever it has been. But they've always had 2 or 3 that have been able to contribute. And most teams that are a power I team, that are tailback oriented, you're not going to be able to make it through the season with just one back. And I think that's why we're seeing so much of the Jonathan Wells and the Sammy Maldonado, especially in Wells' case, where he really is unproven, even though he's been here 4 years.
Chris Gamble at the top of your screen. Again, Bryant in motion on second down. They stay on the ground. Nice move by Maldonado up across the 40-yard line. Jim Barber.
.274 yards and 5 touchdowns. It was this 67-yard run, losing his shoe in the shoe. Buckeyes came from 24 back to win the game. 45-38 for the day. Byers 274 yards and 5 touchdowns. Shoeless Keith Byers. I don't know if it sounds right, but it applied that day.
It'd sound better if he was Shoeless Joe, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess it would.
Third down for the Buckeyes. Nice little touch pass. The big tight end, Darnell Sanders from Scott Mullen into Akron territory at the 30-yard line. Chris Williams forced him out. 27-yard gain.
Darnell Sanders, the leading returning receiver for the Buckeyes, 23 receptions last year. We talked about his improved blocking ability. We've seen him do a nice job, but this is what he likes to do best of all: run that pass route, catch that ball. And he's a natural tight end. He's got great size, 6'6", 265 pounds, just a junior.
Wells cuts it back. Culberson got over to make a hit, among others, for the Akron Zips. Inside of 9.5 minutes now to go in the football game. Jonathan Wells has got quite a workout today. Offensive lineman waiting for one more shot. Paul Andrzejek, 30-73.
I have been impressed with this Akron team, both offensively and defensively. I think they've got some good young players, and we're going to see them in a couple of weeks when they take on Purdue. And you can see they're disappointed. They felt they had a good opportunity to catch Ohio State at the right time, and got nothing to be ashamed of. They should hold their heads very proud as they leave here today. They played a nice ball game.
Maldonado, a little stop and go move. And that only allowed DeAndre Earl. I'm impressed with this freshman. He's made a couple of plays out there. DeAndre Earl, a true freshman out of Toledo, Ohio. And this is the biggest crowd ever to see the Buckeyes play in this facility. 102,602.
Well, I would guess their expansion worked.
Well, Ohio Stadium now becomes, I believe, the 4th largest on-campus facility in the country.
You got Michigan and Tennessee.
Yep.
What's the third one? Our sideline guy knows that.
Interception. Coble back the other way.
Well, this could be a huge play.
How about this? McMullen can't make the tackle. Coble's going all the way.
Boy, a nice play by Coble to step in front and make the interception, but then to turn it into the touchdown. What a twist right there. That should have been, at most, just a turnover. Nice job stepping in front, making it. One missed tackle right there. Outruns it, picks up some key blocks, and then a couple of missed tackles again right down there. Turns this into what could have been a bad play with a turnover into disastrous play with the touchdown.
Ricky Coble, 87 yards for the touchdown, a senior from Charlotte, North Carolina. And now Zach Durr for the point after. And he's got it through the uprights. It is 28-14. A quick turn has tightened the scoreboard considerably with 7:48 to go in the game. Back at Ohio Stadium, Akron on the board in the second half. Its defense did the scoring. Ricky Coble, the interception, and the return of 87 yards for the touchdown. Zach Durr, onside kick. How about this? Akron recovers. Whoa, talk about going to the well and pulling out the stops. Akron football to the 44-yard line of the Zips. You talk about momentum. Myers the recovery.
Well, these guys are having fun out here, and with that fun, you're going to have some success. You always have to be prepared. Your coach will stress that time after time after time. Sometimes, we talked about it earlier, you got nothing to lose. You can take more gambles. And Akron comes out to the field now with excellent field position and a lot of momentum going.
Here we go, 1st and 10.
Well, clearly still in this game with 7.5 minutes to go.
From the shotgun, Charlie Fry. Payne makes one man miss. Cooper wraps him up near the 49 on a gain of 5. So positive play to start this series for Akron.
Oh boy, you have such an advantage though if you're a defense and you have a guy like Joe Cooper who could go out from his linebacker position and cover a guy one-on-one in the open field. That was a 2-man screen, 2 blockers, 2 defenders, ball carrier. Cooper comes up big.
2nd down. Fry. Close to the 1st down on a gain of about 3 or 4 yards. Cooper recovered along with Matt Wilhelm. 3rd down coming up for the Zips.
Wayne, I think it's 3rd down, but it's definitely 4-down territory here. You've got 2 plays to try and make this.
Fry was making like he was going to go without a huddle. Now they change up some personnel. And here they are.
Generally, a pass on this play leads to a go for it on 4th. A run here, not so sure.
Hendry's got the 1st down inside the 40 to the 38-yard line. C. Grant got over to make the hit from his cornerback spot. It is a 1st down.
Boy, you see the Akron offensive line come off this ball. Look at this hole when Ohio State knows you've got to be running the ball. 2 tight ends, 3rd and 1. Huge hole.
That was Conrad Dean pulling from his left tackle spot to make the eraser block on that play that opened it up. From the 38. Officials' whistles hold up the action. Akron has scored on an 87-yard interception return for a touchdown. Then the subsequent onside kick recovered by the Zips. Ryan Myers, and all of a sudden they are in business and about to get back into this game if they can poke it in. Jim Tressel, some anxious moments for him and his football team here in this opening day.
And Wayne, this Akron offense, they're playing with composure. They're not out here overexcited, forcing things to happen.
Fry. Kind of a late throw there, but he's got his man who latches on. Andrew Wilson on the reception. Derek Ross had the coverage. They mark it to the 34-yard line. And a gain of about 3 or 4 yards.
And just a nice job of Fry. Nobody's open downfield. Holds on to it. Comes off of his main target downfield and gets the ball to his secondary receiver.
Option. Hendry. Nice run. Hendry close to the first down inside the 29-yard line. And he really finished that run, Randy. He delivered it.
And that's
the blow.
That's what they say about Hendry. He's a nice size. He's a hard runner. Nice job by Charlie Fry this time, running the option, waiting for the defense to commit. Once they commit, watch as he pitches this ball. As the commitment comes, boom, takes the hit right there by Wilhelm, but gets the ball out to Hendry in the open field.
First down. 28-yard line of the Buckeyes. Akron on the drive. Fry throws it away, and wisely so. He was going for Andrew Wilson, who could not disengage from the coverage. Derek Ross was there.
Oh, and he came out to the left. Nice job of seal blocking by his left tackle tight end. Then as he comes out, he had his tight end Mike Break, the other tight end, wide open. He wasn't squared to throw it. Good decision not to force it. Throw it out of bounds. Come back and play second down.
This is a veteran offensive line, Randy, as you pointed out earlier. 4 seniors and a redshirt freshman in this offensive line.
They're doing a nice job of picking up the stunts Ohio State's throwing at them.
2nd and 10, blitz coming. Fry rolls away from it. Incomplete. Catch made by Brandon Payne, but he did not get his feet down in bounds. You only need to get one in, but you got to get at least one.
Sometimes you can't be so hesitant and wait to make some of these decisions. That time, Fry got the ball out to the open guy, but because he waited so long, there was no room left there. A little bit quicker on the decision making. Pull the trigger a little bit faster.
Inside of 5.5 to go. Fresno on top of Wisconsin by 9 in the 3rd quarter. Badgers had been leading that game. Hendry to the 25, a gain of just 3 yards. That leaves 4th down and 7 yards to go for Akron. Illinois leading Northern Illinois 10-6. 4th quarter of that one.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Akron take a timeout right here and talk this over. Clearly need to go for it with 5 minutes to go and 2 touchdowns to get.
Fry now signals for a timeout. They've got to talk it over. Fry motioned to his helmet like he couldn't hear the play coming in, so we've got a break. We'll return to the horseshoe after these words. But on the other side, everybody up off the bench for Akron. This is the play of the game for the Zips. 4th down, 7 yards to go at the Buckeye 25. Fry. Incomplete. Brandon Payne, the intended receiver, wanted a flag. Will Allen had the coverage, and the Buckeyes take over on downs.
Well, Mike Doss was blitzing from his cover position right to the left. See if there's early contact. It's hard to tell from that side. And Payne, ball just right out in front of him. Got to make a great catch, especially on 4th down. Take a look. Nice job of picking up Doss. I don't think there's any early contact there. I think it was just a well-played defensive job. Nice job. Well played.
0 for 2 on 4th downs now are the Akron Zips. Belisari back in at quarterback for Ohio State. Ohio Stadium in Columbus, better than 102,000 on hand. Wayne Larrivee along with Randy Wright and Jim Barber. Great to have you with us. Maldonado, Sammy Maldonado to the outside. And I'll tell you what, the linebacker Ryan Myers has played himself a pretty good ball game here today. We mentioned him before. His transition from the middle linebacker to rover would be a key this season to the Akron defense, and he's played that position well.
It's his 2nd game in a row. Led the team last week with 8 tackles and has stepped up and played huge today.
Second down for the Buckeyes, about 7 yards to go. Coming up on 4 minutes to go in the game. Ohio State leading 28-14. Akron coming out of blitz. Maldonado ran right into it. The man who made the tackle lost his helmet on the play. That was Ed March, a linebacker who came into the lane and knocked him down and lost his helmet in the process. Jim Barber.
Guys, I'm sitting in not the cheap seats, rather the cheap seats, but the permanent seats here at Ohio State Stadium. Of course, this is the biggest crowd ever at Ohio Stadium. And today we can firmly report that these seats are solid. In fact, I can jump up and down and nothing is moving. You get the idea?
Yeah. You're trying to tell me this place isn't going to collapse?
Yeah, well, this used to be temporary seating over here. It's permanent now. You get it?
All right. I had cheap sheets on the bed last night at the hotel. First down. Nice completion there by Belisari. Bryant on a leaping grab.
I don't know, guys. When you have an almost $200 million expansion, I don't think there are any more cheap seats.
No, nothing's cheap. And this is a beautiful, beautiful structure for those watching the game today who aren't here today, obviously, and maybe you'll visit here at some future date. You will see a stadium that has been preserved on the interior and yet just upgraded and updated beautifully all around the bowl of the stadium. And those stands Jim was just in, it's a huge section now, the opening of the horseshoe. Maldonado, time to display his talents at a touchdown saving tackle made by Ricky McKenzie. Maldonado opens a whopper 19-yard gain, and inside of 3 minutes to go in the game, that may seal it.
This is a little bit of what Maldonado brings to you that they don't really get with Jonathan Wells. A little bit faster, a little bit more speed, instinctive runner. Jonathan Wells, north and south, more of a power guy. Maldonado, a little more instinctive, maybe can make the big play.
Lydell Ross, the true freshman, is in at the tailback spot now. Ohio State first down to the Akron 45. The freshman to the outside. And a nice cutback move there. Just slightly at the end of that run. Ross, mentioned first team All Florida, rushed for over 2,600 yards. An average of 7.5 yards per carry. 28 TDs in his career.
Wayne, the one thing you don't want right now if you're Jim Tressel is any kind of an injury. We got a Buckeye that's down on the far side of the field. Looks like it's one of their offensive linemen. And not being able to see the complete number there.
Looks like it might be Adrian Clark.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it is 63 there, Adrian Clark.
So while they check over Adrian Clark, we'll take a break. Belisari talks with Tressel. We'll back to wrap it up with just under 3 minutes to go. Adrian Clark, it looked like a right knee injury. We'll show you in a few moments the play once again. Ohio State not as deep as they normally would be with offensive linemen. That's something Coach Tressel talked about yesterday. They could ill afford injuries at the offensive line. Here's the freshman once again, Lydell Ross. And he's got a first down. Watch the left corner of your screen on this replay.
Boy, you hate to see these number 63 right there. You see him on the left side. Watch the right knee. It's planted, and there goes the defensive player. Just collapses right into it. And you can see he's having a lot of trouble moving over there, and I think they're going to get ready to take him off of the field on the card into the training room here for some more immediate attention.
Adrian Clark, the sophomore from Shaker Heights, Ohio. He started the game here.
Well,
yeah, Alex Stepanovich had an ankle problem.
So I was just going to say they had an injury that he stepped up, so to lose him further complicates things.
Ross read it pretty nicely there as he picks up about 3 or 4 yards, close to the 30-yard line. Time is winding down, under 2 minutes to go in the football game. Second down upcoming for Ohio State. Well, we saw Michigan's opener last week, Randy, and you saw a lot of good and bad, a lot to coach on. And then same thing for Jim Tressel and his staff. There's some good things that happened here today. There are some things they can coach on over the course of the next week or two.
Oh, I don't think there'll be any shortage of things that Jim Tressel brings up to his team. And yeah, anytime you have a new staff and a new system, especially with as many new offensive faces, it's going to take a while to get into that rhythm.
This is Hall, the Columbus native. Reaches for the pylon. He's out of bounds, just short. Apparently he stepped out near the 3. Maurice Hall, 28-yard gain. So they featured Ross a little bit on that drive, and then they slip Hall in there. Myers and McKenzie denied in the end zone.
It'll be interesting to see now with less than a minute to go. Tressel tries to get this ball into the end zone. Maybe get one of these redshirt freshmen, true freshmen, an opportunity to score a touchdown in their first game.
Hall the tailback, Martin the fullback. Hall. Down to the 1-yard line. James Battle made the stop. Under a minute to go in the game. Akron does have 2 timeouts. Ohio State has all 3 of its timeouts. I don't think either coach is going to exercise one at all. Randy, what do you think for Ohio State, Jim Tressel?
Well, I think it was a good showing for them. They came out fired up. They lost a little bit of that emotion, and then they tried to get back into a rhythm. And I think he's going to do just fine here. I think they made a good choice.
Hall pulled back just short of the goal line. And again, Battle and Detweiler collaborate on the stop. And this one is going to wind down before they run another play. Steve Bellisari, and good afternoon for the most part for him. Jim Tressel wins his debut as Buckeyes head coach. Lee Owens, a former Ohio State assistant, head coach of Akron. Well, that'll do it from the Horseshoe. Thanks for joining us for Big Ten football. For Randy Wright and Jim Barber, this is Wayne Larrabee. Join us next week as Western Michigan visits the Wolverines in the Big House. Again, the final score, Ohio State 28, Akron 14. A colorful day, a beautiful day in the Horseshoe. A warm September afternoon, and the Buckeyes warm the hearts of their fans for the most part today, especially on this play for 61 yards and a touchdown. The proceeding has been a presentation of ESPN Plus, the worldwide leader in collegiate sports.